One more. Testing. All set? Okay, guys, we're going to get started. Welcome, everyone, to our commission meeting. Please come have a seat. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. It is 6:01 p.m. on December 10th, 2025. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance led by John Lyons.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll now begin our roll call, starting at my left.
John Lyons, no conflicts.
Joel Temple, no conflicts.
Barbie DeSoto, no conflicts.
Lisa Jensen, no conflicts.
Melissa Kendall, no conflicts.
Daniel Gonzalez, no conflicts.
Matt Wheelwright, no conflicts.
And Jonathan Hill and I have no conflicts. Before we begin our first item this evening, I would like to read a statement on proper decorum during the meeting. Although this is a public hearing, only the presenters and those invited by the commission may speak or ask questions, unless otherwise invited by the chair. Please wait to speak until called on. When speaking, be sure to speak into the microphone so the record is clear. Please begin by stating your name and city of residence for the record. Please limit side conversations as they interfere with the audio recording. If you need to have a side conversation, please step out of the chambers. Please do not attempt to interrupt or speak over others. Intimidating or threatening speech or behavior will not be tolerated at any time. Please refrain from clapping, cheering, booing, or being otherwise disruptive in any way during the hearing. So with that, we'll go ahead and begin with item 1. Ryan Salmon requests project plan approval for a new 14-unit residential project in the MDR zone located at 2044 North Canyon Road, and Aaron Ardmore will be presenting that for us.
Thank you, Commission. Let me go to the clicker real quick. Okay, so I need to start my presentation with an apology. I feel really bad. I made a mistake in the staff report that went out to the public and to you all by putting the wrong older site plan. So I apologize about the confusion that caused. In front of you is the actual project site plan. So just kind of an overview of the request here. 14 condo units, 4 1-bedroom, 10 2-bedroom, family occupancy on those units. Also required to be owner occupied by way of a development agreement when the rezone went through a couple of years ago. 29 parking spaces are shown on this site plan. I think that was the biggest point of confusion from the site plan that was included in the staff report. So again, I apologize for that. But to kind of orient you all with the property. So you're just here north of the stadium. Those are the buildings that are currently existing on the site that would be demoed to make way for this project. You can see the zoning there has been in place for a couple of years now, the MDR zone. I thought it might be best, as you did receive a lot of public comments on this, to kind of prepare my presentation in a way that tries to address those one by one.
Great.
So I'm going to attempt to do that, and feel free to ask any questions as I go through this. Parking was a big question. You'll note there the code requirement for parking is based on bedrooms in this type of unit. And then you can see there the total required. So they have provided the required parking for the bedroom count and for the use of the property. There was some question about the bedroom count. You could see there on the top of the screen is the first floor. The middle unit is a amenity space, a kind of a shared lobby, open space for the residents, the owners of this complex. On either side of it are residential units with 1 bedroom. You can see that the space closest to the street may appear to some as a bedroom, and can create some confusion there. But these are listed as 1 bedrooms, and that's how we evaluate them, because they're listed as 1 bedrooms. That's how they would be built. And that would be the building code that they run by. A bedroom has different standards in the IBC and IRC than office or different space in a residential unit. And then the upper floors there, you could see on the next 2 images moving down on the screen, are all 2-bedroom units. There's concern about parking with overflow and maybe some safety concerns that would cause. So you can see there, 2100 North is a public street that has parking on both sides. It's 35 feet of asphalt, so there's room for parking on both sides and still 2 lanes of traffic. The other great thing about this is our friends in engineering have been creating these bulb outs all over the city. As new development comes in, the bulb outs come in on the intersections on the end of the streets. That allows better viewing for both pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars at the stop sign, so they don't have parked cars in their way of trying to look both directions before they make their movement. So I think with those things, we understand that from time to time there is overflow parking on multifamily residential. That's just part of it. But it's nice to know that there is public parking on 2100 North, and it's built in a safe way. As you'll note, there is no parking on Canyon Road. The next thing that kept coming up is the setback. So on the image on the left, you can see that is the site plan that was included in the development agreement when the rezone went through. The project site plan next to that matches those setbacks. So the setbacks haven't changed from what was approved in the development agreement. It's about 8 foot 8 inches from the back of the sidewalk to the building. This allowance is permitted by right by the Development Services Director. So he has made that approval, and we moved forward approving the project with those setbacks. You could kind of see some of the difficulty if we were to imagine a bigger front yard setback on Canyon Road. Then you start to lose parking, right? The parking is right up against the property line to the east. And then you have more parking concerns than have already been expressed. One of the criteria for evaluating a reduced setback by the director is it compatible with neighboring development? These 2 examples, the next 2 properties to the south, I think are pretty compatible with what's being proposed here. Building height. So again, you have the development agreement elevations on the top left image. The project elevations that were submitted and approved by staff match identically to those elevations. 30 feet building height to the roof, and then there's a 5-foot parapet. The parapet is there to block the equipment, the AC units, all those fun things that go on the top of the building that people don't necessarily want to see from their backyard or walking down the street. So that parapet is an important part of the building. And an exception to the building height. So they have met the development agreement by keeping that building height to 30 feet or lower. Also of note is all the single family residential around them can be built up to 35 feet in height. So I don't think it's incompatible with anything that's zoned around them. Final point, I believe, from the public comments that I got out of them was this concern about owner occupancy. This will come. This is going to be required. It's in the development agreement. This wouldn't be able to move forward unless when they bring in their plat, they have CC&Rs that regulate these being sold to owner occupants. Of course, this is the first step towards that. The project plan comes in front of you guys, gets approved, and then they will submit for their plat, which will include the CC&Rs, and then they will be ready to submit for their permits after that. So here's just an overview. Hopefully I've illustrated the compliance with both the MDR zone and the development agreement, and hopefully I've addressed some of the concerns, but I'm open to any questions if you have them.
Great, thank you. Any questions for staff today? Matthew?
A couple of clarifying questions, I guess, to start here. So first of all, in the way you went through this, I'm not sure how they get to the center units. Can you show something that tells us how they get upstairs in the center units above the?
Yes.
The-
Yes, I can. So there's stairwells. Anytime you see these sidewalks, there's stairwells in between the units. So they're exterior stairwells. You could kind of see them in the elevations. They're kind of hidden, but they are.
I see the
essentially-
two stairwells out between the outer units and the next ones. I just don't see how they get to the inner ones.
So these gaps here, there's stairwells in there.
Okay.
So maybe it's more evident in the floor plans. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's probably the best image for it. Is those stairwells come up all 3 stories.
But I still don't see how they get to the middle one. The very centermost second floor and third floor. I
Yeah.
still don't see how they access on those plans.
Yeah, I might not have provided enough detail in this.
It's okay.
In images, but
There's more to come, but
Okay.
that's interesting. I haven't studied. I didn't get enough to study, so I'm just that's strikes me as that nobody can get there. Okay. How wide is the sidewalk? You said there's an 8 feet from back of sidewalk to front of building. How wide is the sidewalk to Canyon Road?
David Day might be able to address this. I'm not sure if that was built to the 4-foot standard or if it's going to be rebuilt to the 6-foot standard. If David can come up and address that question, that'd be helpful.
If we can clarify that, because I think the big building to the south has an 8-foot sidewalk. So I'm just trying to understand what our condition really is here.
Yeah, it should be 6 feet. I haven't measured it recently, but we reconstructed that sidewalk a few years ago when we did a water
Okay.
line up through there. And we put it in at 6 feet.
So 6-foot sidewalk, 8-foot, 14-foot net, which is what the development agreement required. Is that an accurate statement?
The development agreement didn't have a specific required number in the setback.
Oh, okay.
It's just based upon the concept plan.
And how does that 14 relate to other things in the code or other requirements is that the normal setback? Is that a variation from the norm?
Well, the director varied it to about 8 feet, 8 inches on this project. The 14-foot, I'm not sure where that number's coming from.
Okay. That's the addition, but maybe I'm thinking of a different, I guess we have 14 units. Maybe I'm conflating those. Okay. And last question, parking, these are all for sale and thus
Yes.
the owner occupancy. So I would assume that there's no chance for I know some rental units in Provo and elsewhere have gotten in the habit of charging extra for parking. And so therefore people don't want to pay for it. So they just park on the street. But I assume with for sale units,
We shouldn't have that.
we shouldn't
issue
have
here.
that problem.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Aaron, if I can address the bedroom issue, if you can go back to that one. I mean, what's stopping someone from using it as a bedroom and how do we determine that? Because, often something's not designated bedroom because there's no egress window or something like that. But
Right.
that's not the case here. It looks like there's a window there, very accessible. What stops someone from just putting?
Well, I mean,
a
the same
roommate.
thing that stops people from using the living room as a bedroom, right? It's occupancy in Provo is a continued thing to be enforced on. But again, we receive plans, we review the plans as they're labeled.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering about is what stops everybody from just designating things as one bedroom and never saying 2 bedrooms? Like-
Jonathan, I think we would have been more skeptical of that representation had they put a closet in the room. If they had added a closet or included a closet, we would have been more inclined to say, well, we're not quite sure about this den representation.
Yeah, but I've lived overseas and they almost never have closets. Like that's not typically normal in a bedroom or required in any way, right? You can buy one on Amazon, get it shipped there. So I'm just wondering how that designation gets done, because what's stopping every builder in the city from just saying, I'm going to call it an office so I don't have to put parking?
Yeah, that's
Right.
a fair question.
And can I pick
And I
it
guess
up?
an open one then.
If you say it's 1 bedroom, what's the occupancy of 1 bedroom versus 2 bedrooms then?
It's the same. It's
It's
family
the same?
occupancy.
So,
So
but
one family
what-
or three singles.
So 3 singles in 1 bedroom?
Again, this being owner occupied, I don't think we'll have as much of the 3 singles as you would in other projects, but potentially, yes.
Except if the office is used as a bedroom, right?
Joel?
So would it be an owner occupied, 3 students would need to pull their resources to pile into a 1 bedroom and buy the unit
Correct.
and then turn their office into a bedroom for themselves?
Yeah.
Okay. Does seem like there are some hurdles to that happening with the owner occupancy requirement. Another question I had was about covered bike parking. I believe that's a requirement of long-term bicycle parking. I didn't see where
Yes,
that is.
we don't have all the details of that on that yet, but they have created space for 14 bikes down here. But we would need to see actual building plans on how that works for the coverage, or whether that's a carport or lockers or.
And then how will parking be managed? Will there be covenants for the parking lot, or if everyone's buying, and then is there an expectation, oh, well, I bought this, so I should have 2 parking
Yeah,
stalls
I
in
imagine
mine,
that would
or-
be spelled on the HOA and the CCNRs.
Okay.
And the applicant, if they're here, they can maybe better adjust that.
Thanks.
Any other questions for staff?
Is the owner occupancy set up like a lot of the ones we've seen where it's like the first year so that way you don't get the institutional buyers or It's always-
They didn't make that designation here, so it's just owner occupancy.
all the time?
all the
Okay.
time.
Matthew?
I can ask one other question. So I was just doing the math. So if you were to enforce 2.25 parking spaces on all of the units, including the 1 bedroom, they're 2 parking spaces short. Looking at the parking plan here on the screen, did the city dictate these islands that I assume will have trees,
Yes.
or how close to the street it goes? Like if they were to get really creative, could they get the 2 more, or have we dictated kind of this layout?
The landscaping code dictates all of that. The bulb outs in the parking lot for shade coverage on the asphalt, and then the setback along 2100 North, that's all dictated by the code. So yeah, those can come in conflict quite often.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Aaron. Is the applicant here tonight? Please come forward at this time and we'll give you 15 minutes to present.
So my name is Zach. I represent the applicant, so I'd be the general contractor on the project. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess to address a couple of the concerns, you know, I understand a lot of the concerns where the public's coming from, right? It's because we've all had to deal with it. I've lived in Provo in the past, was here for about 7 years, and parking was always an issue. I currently live in Saratoga Springs, and parking's an issue. I lived previous to that in Lehigh, parking's an issue. And what it seems oftentimes is we get to these cities where, you know, plans are approved, things aren't well managed. The next thing you know, we've got, you know, developments where you can't see around the corner because there's 1,000 cars. That being said, I know the developers very well. Our goal here with this project is really to try to hit some of the goals the city has, right? Homeownership is a challenge. It's getting increasingly expensive. And, you know, we could have appealed for this project to be that of a rental unit, right? Because a lot of developers want that. Our goal is not to put rentals in. Our goal is to try to make home ownership affordable for families that need to live in Provo.
Just slide
Sorry,
to
let
the
me get a little
side.
closer to the mic.
Yeah.
Is that
That'll be better.
So yeah, our goal is to really try to make home ownership more affordable in Provo, which is why, you know, we're pushing for owner occupied residences. There's never a perfect fit, truthfully. When a city's as developed out as it is in Provo, you try to do the best you can with what you have. In this situation, you know, we're going to try to meet as much parking as we can. Also offer things that will help reduce the need for parking, because Provo is a well-designed city with a lot of public transportation. If we can incorporate things like bike storage and lockers, that will also help satisfy some of the parking needs. You know, additionally, Provo, with its goals of 50% by 2029, is that what I believe the city goal is in terms of home ownership? This is a step towards that direction. And so, you know, I understand the concerns that the community has with the project. I really do. a lot of these things can be addressed in the CCNRs that we're going to submit, that will dictate how transfer of ownership happens, right? To ensure that we're not going to be filling this with renters, right? Or you're not going to get, 3 people trying to live out of your living room, right? I mean, but to be honest, that's a problem in any room. There's nothing stopping people from doing that as it is. So it really comes down to how are we managing the broader issue, the broader challenge? We can do everything we can on our end to ensure that it works well, and we commit to doing that. So I don't know. I didn't really prepare a presentation much other than coming to hopefully address some of the public concerns, but
Great, thank you. If you could just stay for a minute, we'll
Sure.
ask you questions. Are there any
Yeah.
questions for the applicant?
actually, Matt, I might have an answer for you. So the way we can get to those interior units, as you step up on the levels, there's actually an exterior walkway that comes out on the face that then allows you to access those units. But that was a great question. It's not super clear on the site plan. So
Any other questions, John?
Yeah, I have a question. So addressing parking specifically. So in the 1-bedroom units, the allocation is 1.5 parking places for 1-bedroom unit. How in the CCRs, how are you planning on dealing with that?
truthfully, I don't have the answer for you yet. The way we've seen it done in the past, which is what we're going to try to do, is mirror it where parking units go kind of match the room count, and those transfer with the actual units themselves. So if your unit so-and-so and you've got a 2-bedroom unit, it comes with your allotted parking.
So I
If it's
understand for 2 bedrooms, for 1 bedroom, they just get one parking place.
That's a great question. I don't know. It might be at that point like a lottery. I'm not sure, but we can address that issue. We just it gets into that weird, like, how do you which one do you choose to give two parking spots to, or do we do a visitor that can be used only by the 1-bedroom units? We've tried to play through a couple of those scenarios. I wish there was a perfect answer for that. So
Okay.
Any other questions? Joel?
Are any street improvements required with this project, along Canyon Road, for example?
when you say street improvements, like public utility upgrades, or
Well, so you have in the sidewalk, it sounds like might be only 4 feet, might be 6. And then you have a pretty narrow bike lane there. And something I see pretty often is people just pulling in to drop off in the bike lane. And then you get bikes having to swerve out into traffic, and it just gets really messy. Any kind of improvements to make that safer?
So I know we're gonna, obviously, as far as the agreement allows us to, that sidewalk space is gonna be as large as possible. I mean, and even truthfully, from a maintenance standpoint, it doesn't make sense to have a 6-foot park strip against a tall building that's gonna be right next to a road. So if we can, that sidewalk will be increased, obviously, to as much as the development agreement allows. So, yeah, and if there's, Provo's a well-established city, and sometimes our sidewalks have, taken some fun shapes over time. So obviously any issues like that will be addressed and will be updated, and hopefully create a safer walking path and bike path. So,
Okay. Not seeing any other questions. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the public comment portion for this item. When you're please come forward at this time to speak. Each person may make one comment. If we have questions, we'll invite you back at the end of public comment to ask those. This time is for comments only. If you have questions about it, I invite you to ask the staff those. So we'll first begin with any neighborhood district chairs, if they are present. Do we have any district chairs here tonight?
I'm Lynn Sorensen. I'm the Pleasant View Neighborhood Representative to the District 1 Executive Board, and I believe I have 3 minutes. As several of you have noted, this business of 1 bedroom is pretty iffy. We know that parents buy condos for their students, their offspring, nieces, nephews, and whatever. I can easily see 3 adults in these 1-bedroom units. Even if it's a married couple, they have 2 cars. Where are they going to park? That photo that Aaron showed of 2100 North, I don't know when he took that photo, but that's solid with cars from Tim Towers because those people will not park in their own parking. And so it is solid with cars day and night, so that the people who live on that street never have a spot open when they have a visitor. And speaking of visitors, where is visitor parking for this unit? The parking is an absolute nightmare as they're presenting it here. And I do appreciate that several of you seem to agree, perhaps not with my word nightmare, but at least a bad dream. The setback is also an issue. Timp Towers is set back at the same amount, and that was to be a one-off because it was close to the south. When we move farther north, we're moving into the residential portion of the neighborhood, and that amount of setback is not enough in that area. So that continues to be a problem. I also saw that there was no mention of an HOA. There was a mention of CC&Rs, but how do you have CC&Rs without an HOA? It seems to me that that needs to be part of the plan if the owner occupancy is going to be held for more than the first year. We're especially grateful that the Planning Commission is hearing this tonight rather than just having an employee review. And I know that the employee review has suggested that you approve it. But in our neighborhood meetings, we had not one person who found the parking. We had 45 people in our neighborhood meeting. Not one person found the parking adequate in that meeting. And my phone and my email have been flashing for weeks with neighborhood people concerned about this project. So I hope you'll be especially considerate and mindful of the numerous.
Thank you.
Sharon Mehmet, I'm on the neighborhood board, but we're chairless at the moment. I was also at Lynn's meeting. I was guessing two. Take three. Anyway, so I think to address Commissioner Wheelwright's question about the 14 feet, I think it was included in the old drawings that had 14 feet, which kind of goes to one of the concerns in that, as staff is saying, the sidewalk currently is 6 feet, but it was presented to you that the properties immediately north are a higher density project. I don't know, HDR, MDR, whatever. But actually you didn't see the property immediately south of this is actually zoned for single family homes. About 8, if I remember, maybe 16, but they're single family homes that will not have the same setback or feel of this at all. The next property that they showed you is 13 feet setback, which is still greater than this. And that's considered a higher density project. My question with this is I don't understand what I'm looking at with all the slash lines that look like they go into Canyon Road. You addressed bicycles on that road. There is no bike lane on that road. It's a sharrow of the outside lane. So there isn't one. Let's see. So another question would be measuring to the parapet or to the main building. So is it a true 8 feet or is it only sort of an 8 feet setback? The notes that I took at the meeting of the neighborhood concerns were insufficient parking. The Garden Villa immediately deals with the overflow. Insufficient parking relative to the number of possible bedrooms. The narrow setback currently near Timp Towers, it doesn't feel safe or walkable on the busy street. If we want to create a walkable feel, the requested setback of 8 feet is too narrow. It will be difficult to see oncoming traffic as residents of this project and neighbors of Garden Villa will be using 2100 North to pull out onto Canyon Road. Where is the open space? If these are intended to be family spaces, where's the open space for them? The original in 2024 had 8,500.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now open it to the general public. Each of you will also have 2 minutes to speak. You're invited forward at this time.
Howdy, I'm Ryan White. I'm the chairman of the HOA that is directly to the north of this property. And I can't tell you how many people I've heard from that are extremely upset about this. I just want to mention two things. One, we have an issue right now with in our neighborhood, which is houses. People trying to come in and violate our HOA by using it as a rental investment. And it's a pain to enforce. And it's going to cost the city a ton of money and time to enforce. And what's going to happen is it's just not going to get enforced, or it's going to cost the city money. We're battling with that right now, all the time. The second point is, my boys are here. Their best friend lives just to the east of this. So it backs up to this property. There's already a ton of noise from the hill. We're talking about something that's not only going to cause a ton of noise, something that could impact the properties just in construction. But then over time, also, we're talking about putting something in place that makes this no longer a safe and fun place for our families to be able to hang out, get around. Right now, it's already concerning enough because of the increase in traffic to pull out to the left there. And this is just not going to be feasible for kids or for cars. So that's all.
Thank you.
My name is Lily Mott. I am one of the last standing resident owners that is in Garden Villa, adjacent to the east of this proposed project. And it feels like much of a war zone with the hill coming down, and now this proposal. As I was looking at the municipal code, the setback requirement is not met for an MDR housing. It's the 20-foot setback along the front and also along the side that meets the street, which is a big concern for us as residents because we have to pull in and out of 2100. You'll notice in attachment 1 of the staff report that you can see some cars that are parked along 2100 North. That's during the day. Overnight parking is completely packed every single night. It creates an issue with snow removal. We are obviously very concerned about the parking situation. And I think it's a bit disingenuous to claim that units are 1-bedroom units just in order to make the bare minimum parking requirement. That seems very unfair to us as residents. Also, the communication that we are promised by the developer has just not been there. We didn't have the proper site plan to work off of. The municipal code also with the setback in the rear is supposed to be 20 feet. I don't know if that includes the parking space or not. But obviously we are very concerned about the safety. As I said, I am one of the last standing resident owners in this area, and Garden Villa actually is also supposed to be owner occupied, but multiple units are going up for sale. They're being purchased by investors, more rentals than owner occupied. And I don't know how that would be enforced for this project either. So urging the commission to deny or somehow revamp this proposal because it doesn't meet. Also that front, oh, I'm out of time. Sorry, never mind.
Thank you. Any others that would like to comment on this item?
I'm Rebecca Shoemake, co-chair for Garden Villa Condominiums. As Lily was just about to say, that offset being so narrow, already when I'm pulling out onto 2100, I have to pull out into the street and peek around parked cars to see if I can get on 2100.
Now we're talking about having the building be right up close to the Canyon Road. We're going to have to be doing the same thing. And kids walking to and from school on that street. And we have people who go out with their dogs or their baby carriages. It's going to be a nightmare. Just want to say that offset will not fit in with the neighborhood. All the other buildings are only like 2 stories until you get to the apartment complexes or their condo towers. And so even though they're bookend with tall buildings, that area is not tall buildings and they're not close to the street. They have the normal offset. So it's going to be a sore thumb sticking out.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ethan Unklesby. I live in the Temp neighborhood. Am I allowed to make a comment?
Yes.
Okay, great. Love the concerns about owner occupancy. Whatever you figure out how to enforce that, please bring that to the Temp neighborhood. I currently live in a multi-story, multi-unit condo complex, of which there are only 2 resident owners. And the other neighborhoods that live in the detached family homes have just seen a decline in the complex itself. So whatever you figure out, bring it to Temp as well. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Warner Woodworth. I live between the stadium and the temple, the 2 most sacred structures in Provo. And we voted on that. So I've lived in this city 60 years. I've been a resident in my current house 50 years. And I'm amazed at how much the city continues to deteriorate. So I'm not going to talk about the measurements and the little cute laws and the way developers are able to manipulate things. I just want to beg you as a city planning commission to consider our values, our history, our culture of building a sweet, loving community, not like my 2 streets that come together. We live on the corner. We have about 30 parked cars in the street. Some days you cannot get your car down when some cars come from the other direction. And they've got lots of our neighbors have so much junk in their yards. And we keep asking ourselves, why is it that the city seems to have no conscience? We voted for a new mayor, hoping there'd be some action, finally, to address some of the public concerns about quality of life, about what I wrote about, a few books called A Community of Zion, a location where people live together. I'm not talking Mormonism, Zion. I'm talking Christian ethics. And I keep wondering, when will we have leadership that will address the heart and soul of the community, not just what some lawyers and some developers put together to destroy more of our quality of life? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Rich Ziegler. I've lived in the Pleasant View neighborhood since '99, and now kind of half between Illinois and Utah, but have a lot of close friends in the Pleasant View neighborhood. I just think it's kind of sloppy that the wrong information was sent out ahead of time. Maybe that's an oversight, but I think there's lots of items that in the discussion today that were kind of swept under the carpet, and the establishment of an HOA, the way of enforcing this idea of an office that really probably be used as a bedroom. And how do you saw a parking spot in half, or how do you determine what's what? How do you control that? I just kind of wonder, where's the integrity of all this? I know there's a lot of neighbors that really want the council to vote no against this. You know, and once we go down a road, it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag, and you know, it's very, very hard to retroactively fix it. You know, some of these comments of the other folks that have come up, you know, once something is done kind of wrong, you can't just tear it down. You can't take it back. It's, you know, it has to be planned right from the get-go. So anyway, those are my observations and my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Adam Shin. I'm a resident of Provo. I just wanted to share a couple of quick thoughts looking at this. I think it's clear looking at these kinds of discussions that come up again and again, the questions and issues that come up, that are parking and traffic are a constant concern for residents of Provo. And I think that the systems we have to manage parking, to manage traffic, as we negotiate new growth, are simply not working well. And that's evident by the fact that we have these discussions coming up again and again and again. I also want to say that I think that as we think about growth, we understand that Provo is a college town. There's always going to be demand for parking, or excuse me, demand for college housing in Provo. And the question is how we respond to that demand and how we negotiate the growth that happens. Saying no to a project would eliminate a lot of the concerns that many of these neighbors have, but there's also trade-offs that come with that. We have an opportunity here right around BYU and right around the stadium. You know, you actually do have the opportunity to let students live close enough that they can walk, get to transit, they can bike, and do things that don't cause traffic, right? At least not car traffic, and don't require parking. If we say no to this project, there's, you know, potentially a lot of students who might live here who will live somewhere else. Not saying that that's, you know, right or wrong, but that is the trade-off we have to choose. If the students who might live here, maybe even sleeping in the office or the den or whatever, choose to live on the outskirts of town, or choose to live in, you know, Linden or you know, Springville, where they're building a lot of apartments, they will still have cars, and they will still drive their cars into our city, and they will still end up parking on our streets and parking probably in a lot of these neighborhoods as they get to campus and go to the stadium and go to events. And so I think that, you know, just as a bigger picture question, we really ought to think about, and I hope the commission would consider communicating to the council that we need a bigger picture solution that really thinks about how parking works with growth overall. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments for this item? Okay, not seeing any, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission for discussion. What are we thinking on this item? Barbie?
So I have been now on the planning commission for like, 2 years or something. And I have noticed that everyone hates cars apparently. But whenever there are efforts to reduce car infrastructure and dependency, everyone's against it. So like Adam said, I think that basically, if you want cars to not be so prominent, then we need to make that decision as a whole city. And I think there are some reasons people have brought up that they think this shouldn't be built. Like the enforcement might be lacking. That's true. And it'll make noise, things like that. But I don't know. I looked at a map that's up in the library, the BYU library recently, and the condos that the people who commented, they didn't exist. So I just am like, there was a point where all of these didn't exist. And I don't know, I have a hesitation about saying no to everything because of our failure to make the structures better. We say like people can't live here because, you know, we don't want your cars, we want our cars. So yeah, I guess that's more philosophical than about this specific thing, but that's my thought.
Okay, Lisa?
My initial reaction when I read the staff report was that this project isn't asking for any exceptions, and they're even exceeding the requirements in some places. So I know that the comments that we've heard and maybe the discussion that we feel needs to happen doesn't agree with that, but on paper, the books, the laws of zoning right now this project meets. So that means we have to find some really good reasons why, if we deny it, why that's not okay. That having been said, in regards to parking, I wonder if it might not actually be sufficient because they aren't charging for it, like some of the adjacent properties. And someone talked about how do they allot the spaces? If they give one per bedroom, when somebody buys a unit, you get a spot with that. That leaves 5 spots open for visitors, and that seems very reasonable. Should we punish this project just because another one didn't go well? You know, just because the Timp Towers has overflow parking everywhere in the neighborhood, does that mean this one will also? And that having been said, I'm usually somebody who's like, oh, people are going to park everywhere. We got to be careful. So I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying we need to find good reasons, either change the rules before the next project comes in, or find a really good reason why this one doesn't meet the books. Over occupancy is hard to enforce, but if we say we shouldn't allow anybody to build anything because it'll just be over occupied, you can see that that's sort of a ridiculous notion as well. Like, I live in a neighborhood with lots of mixed densities, and it's not one particular type of housing that's causing the over occupancy influx. It's all the types of housing that are breaking the rules here and there. And it's hard to enforce when we don't have the legal tools to search somebody's house and prove them wrong when they tell us they're not renting. So I guess the questions I raise is, it looks like on paper, we have no reason to deny this project because they meet the qualifications. The one that's in question is the setbacks, and that's in the zoning code as something that staff has the parameters to fudge if they feel like it's a good idea. So we can say we disagree with staff on that one maybe, but I just don't feel like there's a lot of wiggle room for our decisions. And I think the other issues that are raised are that we need to, like Barbie said, send a message to the council that we have to figure out how to deal with over occupancy. And I think that also will help deal with the parking problems. Or go revisit the idea of the paid parking everywhere program that they tried to do a couple of years ago, and then it didn't happen. Like, there's things that have been brainstormed, have been attempted that would address these problems, but I don't think it's fair to say it's this developer's fault, who hasn't even contributed to it yet, that it's a problem. The one idea I did have in regards to the height and the visibility concerns, which I share, because if we're going to say, yeah, you can build that close to the street, we're going to allow it in this case. I wonder if building A maybe could only be 2 stories instead of 3. And that would also give us a few extra parking spots and make it a little bit less of a wall there on the corner with the close proximity. But that was the only idea I could come up with that would fairly address the problem, I think.
For driving though, I don't think that would be helpful. I just mean like that's the lower level. That's the problem on that corner.
All right. Should we make it a carport on that unit? Only the 2nd and 3rd stories, but not
Just
the
make
first?
it like, what we can do is have them carve out just a square like that. So it's an overhang. I'm just kidding.
We're not actually suggesting that, but that is something we could consider of maybe wiggling that building around a little bit to help with the setback and the visibility issues. But
Okay, we're going to get to Melissa in just a second. Bill, before we do, will you, for everybody's benefit here, just talk about project plan approval and the standards we're supposed to use as we evaluate this and decide whether to approve or deny?
Well, yeah, so project plan approval is an administrative item to the planning commission. And if development meets requirements of the code, then you have limited discretion. In this particular case, what you see on the plan is extremely similar, if not exactly what the city council saw when they approved the zone change and created a development agreement that included a concept plan that looks just like this. So it was at that point that the building location and setbacks and those kinds of things all got established. relation to building A and its proximity to the intersection, it's got to meet the city engineering department's site triangle for that intersection. I believe it already does because of the bulb out, but engineering will check for that to make sure that it does. If it doesn't, the corner of that building's got to be cut back or the building has to be slid to the south because you have to respect the engineering standards for site triangle. I don't doubt that Tim Towers is causing a problem with parking because what we're finding is that these apartment complexes, even those that provided full parking, you remember Tim Towers didn't ask for any exception because they charge for parking. As long as you can park for free on city streets around it, that's what people tend to do. I'd be willing to bet you that if you walk through Tim Towers parking garage in the middle of the night, there'd be a lot of empty spaces, but yet the streets around it would have a lot of cars. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. Perhaps parking regulations for 2100 North is the solution. That would force those people in Tim Towers to go back into their own building instead of parking up here on a free street.
Yeah, I agree. I think parking, as has been expressed here, is an issue, but kind of a separate issue, right?
On the issue of owner occupancy, that is a hard issue for this reason. The city council is really pushing developers towards providing more for sale housing. And that was a big issue on this project and the concession the developer made. But as soon as you say, we're going to have for sale housing, it opens up the opportunity for individual units to be overoccupied. You don't have one central management company that we can go to as a city and say, that's a violation, get it right, or we're going to take away your rental dwelling license. In this case, you're going to have 14 different owners. So while we're accomplishing a goal of more for sale housing, we're setting ourselves up for more need for enforcement because of the door that opens to individual violations.
Right. Thank you. Melissa?
I just have a couple of questions. You mentioned that the city council saw this concept plan. Was the idea of a bedroom with an office, was that something they saw? Did they see that?
Do you remember, Aaron?
The floor plan wasn't contemplated during the rezone. With a rezone application, a concept plan application goes with that. And it's not a full submittal, architectural civil submittal like this project plan would be. So that type of detail didn't show up at the rezone.
Okay. The second question I have is, the building on 9th East, I think it's called Campus Place. Is that what it's called? That's so close to the road, 9th East.
Yeah.
College Place, not Campus Place, College Place. How would the setback here compare to that setback?
It's less. That is less setback than what is being proposed here.
That one is less.
Yes.
Do you know
At
how much
At
less?
some points, it's a 0 setback.
Okay.
The building undulates, but
And that's all parking lot on that one. That's why it's so kind of horrible to be around, but this would be homes with doors and it would feel less yucky.
Okay, then just a comment. I think, the reason we have such an issue with cars is because we live in the West where we're spread out. So we can have transit, we can have all sorts of things, but it's the last mile, last 2 miles that gets people. So my own children, I'm always saying, well, why don't you just take this? Why don't you just take that? Because it would take me 2 hours to get there and 2 hours to get home. People are going to always have a car. And I think we have to try and figure out ways to accommodate that need because we live in the West. If we lived in New York City, you can compress it all and you don't have to. You can walk from one side to the other easily. So I feel like we're fighting something that we're not going to be able to really change. People always have a car, and I think we need to just acknowledge that and try and do our best to accommodate that fact.
Well, I would actually argue even further, having lived in New York City, even there, cars and parking is an issue. Traffic and parking comes up all the time. People wait over an hour to cross the bridge to get into the city. They'll drive around the block for 2 hours to get free parking instead of paying for it in the garage. It's the same issues, even in these places that have these large public transportation systems, because people like cars. They're super convenient. And especially here, I think one big thing we have to remember is a big draw of our area is the outdoors. And there's never going to be a bus that goes to your campsite, right? And so people will have that car, at least, even if they're taking public transportation to work, they're still going to have that car for their weekend trips. Any other comments, John?
Yes, I have a question. I think it's for staff. If you could help me sort out when in the development agreement, when the setbacks were changed and why they were changed, why they approved to a smaller, help me sort that piece out a little bit.
You can address that one. That was
When this went through the zone change process, just like you've heard tonight, adequate parking was a huge issue. Having as much parking as possible on the site was a huge issue. With this double stacked parking that you see how much room it eats up on the property. So if you're going to try to maximize parking, that's going to minimize your building envelope or whatever land you have left for the rest of the development. So in order to help as much parking happen as possible, reduction in setbacks was seen as a reasonable trade-off in order to get as much parking as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Daniel.
Yeah, at the risk of, I don't remember, I was here when this project got approved and rezoned. I don't remember how I voted. And so at the risk of embarrassing myself, I'm not sure what to say. But it does seem, I have some concerns with just the density, but that's already been approved as part of the MDR. Like 14 units on a half acres is quite a bit. And then another comment was made in the public that the sense that Provo is deteriorating. And for me, part of what helps keep a more vibrant community is that parts of land do get redeveloped, that they get upgraded to accommodate the needs and the demands of the residents who love Provo and want to live here and make a life here, and the fact that this is providing a product where it could be owner occupied is something that our general plan calls for. And I guess lastly, in terms of the parking problems, you see that across every single product at every single price level, whether they're $1 million homes or $500,000 homes or townhomes or condos or apartments or duplexes. It's always an issue, and part of it is just the nature of life out in the West. And we didn't start out with dense cities, and so everywhere we go we drive. I have mixed feelings about this, but at the same time I feel it meets the standards and should be approved.
Matthew?
So along those lines, I guess just to clarify then, the development agreement, if they had stuck with whatever site plan was with that at the time, we would already be caused to agree or to support that, because the development agreement has vested rights in association with these 14 units and meeting the other standards. Is that an accurate statement? Right?
Yes. I was just going to try to go through that slide to show you the comparison between the two.
Okay. So they're meeting what the development agreement said. What was that, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago? They've met those standards. So I guess parking clearly is a dramatic thing here, which I agree with, but I don't think not doing the project really solves bigger issues. But maybe at some point we could help the city or push on the council to have some conversations about the parking strategies that are going on. Like if new, and that's really hard to go retroactive, but if you could enforce the I can't remember all the names of what's around here, and force them to park for free inside their own building, that would actually solve a lot. But what they would have to do is, if it's $40 per parking space, they would have to charge rent an extra $40, and they, for whatever reason, they're reluctant. But I think the city could make a difference in that. So I hope we're having those conversations, and yes, we've got a new mayor, and there's some other things that might prompt that. I guess what I'm wondering on this site plan in particular, if we ignore the two or the one bedroom units and say, hey, call them 2-bedroom units, we're 2.5 parking places short. If we were to grant some kind of variance on those islands bulb outs, rather than 2 on each side, 1 on each side, could we do that?
It's like you read Steph's mind. I stayed up here because I was going to ask for some input on how the planning commission views the 1-bedroom versus 1-bedroom and den. And if we come to the conclusion that that should be viewed as a 2-bedroom and we need 2 or 3 more spaces, could that be an opportunity to get rid of some of those landscape islands, get those cars parked?
Do we have the ability to suggest that?
We do, yeah. Title 15, Chapter 20 does give us ability to alter the standards if it comes up with a better product. So
I would suggest, and I love bulb outs. I actually care a lot about parking lots. That sounds weird, but I do. And I think if you were to get rid of 2 bulb outs and have kind of the other 2 and maybe more center them, we still accomplish it and get 2 parking spaces. That really gets us pretty dang close to the 2-bedroom counts, half unit short. I don't know what a half parking space looks like, but you also have parking, bike parking. If a student does live here, it's not like there's not parking in the Lavelle Edwards parking lot that they could park in most days, not on game days, but otherwise they could park there. But I agree with much of what's been said. We kind of are supposed to approve this. It meets the standards. I'm hearing the neighbors and concerned about things, but I think a lot of those are bigger issues that we need more political will to help push on and solve. And to punish this project in particular feels a little disingenuous to what we've already agreed in the development agreement with City Council previously.
Thank you. I'll agree with that real quick and then we'll go over here. I think, when you're doing infill like this, sometimes you have to make variances for setbacks and things like that. I really prefer it's a small enough parking lot. I don't think it's a huge deal to just cut it back, get a couple extra spaces, help that out. I don't think the setbacks are too tight. I do think that every time we see a project, it feels like if it's commercial, we're sitting there going, wow, that's a lot of parking spots. Why do we have so many? And if it's a residential one, we're like, oh, shoot, that's not enough parking. So I think it's time for the city to reevaluate parking standards across all zones and look at reducing commercial parking and increasing residential parking and accepting that cars are a big issue here. And it's mostly residential where it's an issue, right? So with that, let's go down here to John.
Yeah, so to answer the question very specifically, I generally agree with the need for additional housing. I like the concept. The look is fine to me, but the 1-bedroom apartments are a problem. It looks like a duck, talks like a duck, flies like a duck, smells like a duck. I don't care what you call it. So for me, I would vote no because I consider that a 2-bedroom comparable apartment. But if you can find a solution to get parking so that it was this as if a 2-bedroom, then I would be in favor of it.
Thank you. Joel? Then we'll have
what sort of enforcement mechanisms have we tried for owner occupancy in apartments? And are they working? Are they not working?
Well, one thing we have started doing that actually was in this very neighborhood was a blitz to go out and knock on every door in the neighborhood and check exactly what the occupancy is. And that had very good results. We found a lot of violations that we're enforcing on. So we go knock on the door. If we think there's a problem or get a complaint, we go knock on the door. With these blitzes we're doing, we're not waiting for the complaint to come in. We're just going on and initiating ourselves.
I imagine it would be a deed restriction or something that runs in perpetuity with the home, that the occupant has to also own it. Is that kind of how these have been structured?
Yes, there's a combination of things. That's one of the tools. The other tool is the CCNRs. The third tool is not issuing rental licenses for these properties.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Melissa?
So even though the development agreement and the concept plan was presented, I think we have reason to be able to say that designation as one of those bedrooms as an office was not made known before. So that is a difference, that is a change. And I agree, that is not 1 bedroom. That is not going to be treated as 1 bedroom and will be very difficult to enforce And I think we have the ability to say it should be treated as 2 bedrooms and then the parking has to be to meet that standard.
I think that's a good solution. I also think that one suggestion I just want to make on the broader conversation about parking is looking into parking benefit districts. That's something I feel like it's sort of leveling up from the permit system. It actually is a lot more beneficial for the neighbors. So parking benefit districts, you might want to look that up. The other thing I was going to say was, I do like this. I like that it's going to be owner occupied. I just wanted to address what Daniel mentioned about the comment about Provo deteriorating. And I was thinking about something I saw recently. I was talking about the Zion plat, and how the intention for the plats in Salt Lake City was to have 15 to 20,000 people per square mile. And so the notion that having more density is going away from this idea of, I don't know, our heritage and stuff is just not true. And I just want to bring that up because I think that honestly, if we had kind of kept to that, we would have maybe a different set of problems, but it would be, I don't think it's a natural thing one way or the other. We build the environment and people respond to it.
Matthew?
I would echo that. I'm actually super proud of Provo. I think we've done a lot of good things. I think we're leading Utah County in many respects. And compared to some other cities, I'm really grateful. I live and work and do everything. My whole life is in Provo, except for when I go up the canyon to hike. This is where I do everything. I'd like to revisit and just get some impressions across the council on this 8-foot setback. And I feel like we can't do a lot because it's been approved, but I also don't see this as awful, but it's not exact. It is a deviation. And I'm just curious what other people think about that. I know it shifts to visibility at the intersection, but it also meets code. And so I'm just curious where other people's heads are at on that setback.
For me, first of all, looking at the intersection, I think when you're there trying to turn, you're out in front of it, especially with the bulb outs. It kind of creates space. I guess I see it as a necessary evil in this case where, parking lots this small have to be a certain width. There's nothing they could change about that. And it's an infill lot. And I feel like we often make small concessions on infill lots because we can't change things, right? We're not setting up a plat from scratch. And so I'm not too bothered by it in this particular case.
But you could get it to work if you discounted parking or reduced unit counts, but we've already told them they could do 14, right? So we're kind of stuck a little bit in the middle of that, aren't we?
We are a little bit, but also, I mean, I just look at that parking lot and like reduce a little bit. I guess you could do angled slots, or cut it in half. There's a minimum parking lot width and we're at that minimum.
Yeah. And I would add on the 8-foot, I live near the flats and on 4800 North. I wish they were much closer to the street. It would actually make the street feel better.
Yeah.
If they were closer. It's a weird dynamic and they faked the entry. Having front doors on the street is a huge plus. I think there are a lot of good things happening. Maybe the 8-foot isn't ideal, but there are a lot of good things that this project has strived to do that I think are beneficial.
Yeah, my wife and I have talked about building our own house off and on over the years. And every time I say, well, one thing I want to do is have it as close to the road as everybody will let me do, because I hate front yards. I just mow them and I don't use them. I use my backyard. So I want my house pushed as far forward as possible so I can get a bigger backyard and a smaller front yard to deal with, right? And so, yeah, there is the other side, which the community commented on, of feeling like you can walk down the road and not feel like the building's right on top of you. The campus plaza or whatever, the one that's got a 0 setback is an example of that. But I think 8 feet back from the sidewalk with a 6-foot sidewalk is sufficient for me there. Other comments on that?
I just wanted to reiterate what I said before, that I think it's different than that other place because of the doors being there and it being much more inviting. I was in Cambridge a couple years ago, Cambridge, UK, and I remember I was walking down the street and the gardens, and if you can call it a garden, the stoop basically of some of these little houses, they're row houses, was like 4 feet from the road, and their roads are really narrow. And I was like, this is just so like charming. And I think we're just not used to this notion of things being close proximity to us, but it actually like creates like a room feeling that makes people feel better about being on the street because you feel protected. And this is like a natural thing for people. And so cities where we feel it's lovely to walk on the street. I was just in Italy this fall. Same thing. It's because you feel like you're protected from the outside. And I know we're just not used to that, but it's just I think it's just a mental shift.
Okay, Lisa?
Can you tell us about the landscape plans, Mr. Ardmore? Like, if we get rid of those two islands in the middle of the parking, or if we suggest that, do we have any other trees or anything that create a less urban feel to this project?
Yeah, so there's two different standards you're dealing with here. One is interior parking lot landscaping. That's the one we'd be giving up on
Right.
a little bit. There's a separate standard for site landscaping. This would not affect that because there are two different standards and measured in two different areas.
Do you feel like their landscaping standards are above and beyond, or are they bare minimum? Like, if we get rid of the landscaping ones, is something else going to compensate for it to make it still look like a nice homey project?
I think we could probably work with the owners on replacing those trees somewhere else on the site. If you're giving up 2 or 3 trees because of that change, I think we could find places for those elsewhere.
Okay, I just would hate, like, I think it's probably the best solution we have as far as a tool that's accessible, but I would also hate to create a giant asphalt island and have people hate that as well, so.
And if we could get those trees in the front of the property between the sidewalk and the house, that's actually what people want. They want a shaded sidewalk experience. And I think that's actually more important than how far the building facade is, especially if it's a nice facade, which I can't tell totally what is on that, but they've put some work into it, at least, that if we had we swapped the trees from the back to the front, I think we might actually improve the walkability.
That's a
Or
good
even
point.
on the south side, something that, creates a nice buffer between properties, hides the parking lot a little bit. I think that would be a welcome.
I think that's a good
adjustment.
point because those buildings, that's a west facing building, which is
Yes.
very hot during the summer.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions, comments? Matthew?
Do we need, if we want to encourage a modification of the parking, is that a continuance kind of thing, or we recommend that as a condition? How does that work?
Yeah, so staff has recommended approval with one condition. You could add several more conditions to that approval. So you could list, the condition of removing 2 landscape islands to install 2 more parking spaces, another condition to add 2 to 3 more trees to the west front property line. So you could add those as conditions of your approval.
If you're going to do that, then please add the finding that the 1 bedroom and 1 den you're considering to be a 2-bedroom unit. So that's your basis for these other changes.
Okay. Great. Are we ready for a motion or more discussion? Who wants to make the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thanks.
I move that sorry. Actually, it's been so long, I shouldn't do it because I don't remember what to say.
I'll do it. I've been writing it down.
Okay, Lisa's prepping it right now.
Okay, I will do this. I would like to make a motion that we approve item number 1. Ryan Salmon requests project plan approval for a new 14-unit residential project in the MDR zone located at 2044 North Canyon Road in the Pleasant View neighborhood, subject to the following conditions. First, that a subdivision plat with CC&Rs requiring all 14 units be sold to owner occupants is approved and recorded prior to the building permit approval. Second, that we remove 2 landscape islands to add 2 more parking spaces. And third, that we replace the parking lot landscaping or move that landscaping that would have been in those landscape islands elsewhere on the property. And the finding on conditions 2 and 3 is that we deem those offices or dens to be a bedroom.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's begin voting at my left.
Aye.
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 And I will vote aye, and so item 1 passes unanimously. Item 2 tonight was withdrawn, and so we will move directly to item 3. Development Services Request Ordinance Text Amendments, Provo City Code 15.05 to eliminate the existing exemption from the 100-foot river setback and streamline building permit procedures. And looks like Aaron's going to present that one as well.
Yes, thank you. So I also have Malia from the City Council office with me, if you have additional questions on the background or justification behind these. But the slides are very limited. It's one slide showing the simple changes to the code. So the first one is purely a development services request. It was a goal to find efficiencies in our approval process and building permits. This was one opportunity found by Hanamawaga in our building division, where properties within high water table, the issuance of those permits were being delayed because of this signed agreement that has to be recorded with the county and proof of all that before we can even issue the permit. We felt comfortable and stormwater division felt comfortable changing the timing of that to before the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the building rather than issuing the permit itself. So that's that first one in the 170. The other text amendment in 180 is, as you've seen, there are allowances to deviate from the 100-foot river setback in Provo City. So along the Provo River, everything has to be built 100 foot away from that. But there's an exception built into the code for project plans and for other structures on single family lots. The council wanted to take away that exception while we investigate how to treat the river better. So that's something that development services staff is going to be taking on the next year of a river corridor plan, trying to address the river better and being more thoughtful about those setbacks and the uses against the river. So those are the amendments in front of you. And if you have any questions, go ahead.
Great, thank you. I do have one question. These exceptions that were built into it, have they been used?
They have. They've been used on accessory buildings and swimming pools on single family homes. They've been used on project plan applications for commercial buildings along the river.
Okay, thank you.
I'm remembering that development that's on the very north end of University Avenue that has its parking lot in Orem. Didn't we use it on that for like a corner of the property that was
that
too
was
close?
That was one of the recent examples.
Yeah.
There's another one on the west side.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I have a question.
John?
So then in terms of those exceptions, is the city council deeming those as inappropriate, should not have been made? We should not have done those acts?
Malia. I don't know if it's that specific. I think it's more of a general idea, but Malia can address that.
Well, my sense is we have talked about it on the commission level that we've wanted to study more about Provo River corridor issues. So I think council has felt kind of the same, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any one specific project that the council felt like that was inappropriate. There have been comments made on specific projects about, oh, well, can we make sure that the river is an amenity in this and there's still public access and it's still beautiful, and concern about existing trees especially, or other nature, or the river trail. And I think just the culmination of all those discussions and our discussion with development services is that to have it be 100 feet, well, we figure it may as well change. The setback might change from 100 feet. Like we changed it at one point to 40 in 2001 or 2021. I don't remember. So sorry. And it may change again after we go through river corridor standards and kind of see what that looks like. But the council's intent here was just to make sure that we are a lot more intentional about what is close to the river and how that looks.
So my question then is, I would think another regional approach would be to do the study first before you change the ability to, that we've had, that there doesn't seem to be any explicit concern with what's been done.
that was something that was discussed about whether we need to do this first or do the standards and then come back and amend this. There was some concern that in the meantime, people might make approvals. The exception standards are not very specific. So there have been cases where there were parking lots to a warehouse or a commercial structure that were allowed within the exception. And in that case, the council was concerned about their ability to kind of review what was allowed within the setback. So we just didn't want any more further projects to come in while we were trying to figure that out, because we don't have a set timetable on when that corridor standard will be done.
So that was my next question. We don't have a set timetable. This is indefinite, could happen, could take a very long time.
Not a very long time. It is a high priority for the council. So we'll be working in partnership with Development Services to make sure this gets done definitely by the end of next year, but we're hoping sooner than that.
So then we're looking at likely 2 years-ish, where we won't have any exception until this gets worked through.
I think 2 years would be too long of an estimation.
Okay, thank
It'll
you.
be shorter than that, definitely.
To follow up, if there was a project that came that just really is better, if there's a small exception made here, what pathways or recourses would we have for that?
Typically, there's a text amendment or a variance. Variance you'd have to show a hardship. Text amendment would be a legislative decision.
Okay.
So essentially, we're not changing the ability for somebody to build. We're just changing the ability to make an exception for somebody to build closer, right? That's all that we're voting on right now, is just getting rid of the ability to make an exception until further study.
Exactly, because right now, if a project comes to Development Services, it is 100 feet is the setback, and then they have to meet the criteria to get the exception to have it be 40. So we're just getting rid of the exception, and so it's just the 100.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, so since the city is the applicant, we'll go direct to the public comment portion of this meeting. We invite you to come forward at this time and share your comments. Again, this is for comments only. If you have questions, we invite you to ask those to staff. Do we have any neighborhood district chairs from this area? Well, I guess it's citywide, so from any area here. Yes, please. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Sharon Mehmet, I would speak because the river is in, I wonder if there's a district it's not in, frankly. I haven't read through the whole program. I just wanted to kind of get on the record that as you create these standards for our river, I know as we had a new development in our very northeast area, that it was brought forward. I know as I've visited other cities, I would love to see we keep that access to the river for the public. I think that development should have included, frankly, a couple of restaurants with some patios right out on the river. With 100 feet or not, I don't know. But I also would include in that to maintain also the public access. If I'm not visiting the restaurant, I still want to be able to walk along the river possibly. So if you'll keep those, I hope, in mind as you create these standards, whether it's code or standards or general plan, that would be kind of what I'd love to see in Provo happen. I hate the idea of cutting those off to the public as we built the new warehouses and things that were recently approved. I think we need to keep that in mind for our city. It's a great use.
Great, thank you. Any other comments on this item? Okay, not seeing any, we'll close the public comment portion, bring it back to the council for discussion. Lisa?
I feel like having been part of the Rivers and Lakeshore Plan committee and seeing the development that's come and the general plan that was approved most recently, I feel like all the goals that are in the Rivers and Lakeshore Plan and in the general plan really align with, I think, what the council is trying to do. And I feel very comfortable putting this in their hands for now, because I don't think they can come up with something extreme if they're following the goals that we've already established as a city to make this, to make our policies more in line with those. So I'm totally comfortable with this change.
I wanted to mention, I do know that just from chatter, I guess, like during mostly during the election, a lot of people on the west side especially were upset about that warehouse being so close and close to the river, and they felt that that was like a huge violation of their space, I guess, and some of the beauties of their area that they live in. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that had a lot to do with the feeling on it. I also agree that this is totally in line with what we were trying to do. And I think that making this change now is probably just to be on the safe side, because then if somebody buys property, they'll know what the code is right now, like with this change, and that they have to take that into account about how much they can build. Whereas if we don't do what they're asking here, then they make standards that are stricter later, that might just cause problems. So
Thanks, Joel.
More just a suggestion, I guess, or comment. When I lived in Hawaii, the ocean and the beach is a public right to enjoy, and you cannot restrict access to it in any way. So you build a hotel right on the beach, your lobby's open air and everyone can walk through it to get to it. You plop your house beachfront property, there's an alleyway between your house and the neighbor so that everyone can access the beach. So I think having something like that where we preserve public access in perpetuity would be really great. There was an existing line here that access needs to be within 400 foot intervals. I think keeping something like that in there would be really great.
Other comments?
I have another one.
Yes.
I just want to point out that the one thing that staff didn't, and we didn't ask for many questions about, is the second item that we're voting on, which is changing it so that they have to get the hold harmless agreement signed before their certificate of occupancy instead of the building permit, right? I just didn't remember you really going through that, and we certainly didn't ask you any questions. So I wanted to make sure that since all the chatter was about the 100 feet, that we knew there were two items here that were being adjusted.
Yeah, just briefly touch on that. It's a way to get permits out faster.
Okay. On Joel's comment, I am interested about the item access is provided to river at intervals not exceeding 400 feet. We are taking that out, but I don't know, since that's part of an exception, I think it would be hard to leave just that part in as it's written, right?
I'm just saying for the future river
Future
standards
plans.
that we create, I'd like to see something that mimics that. Yeah.
Keep
I
that,
do think that's a
keep
good
that
idea.
idea in there.
That or better. Yeah.
Okay, are we ready for a motion?
I can take a
Thanks for
shot
taking
at it.
Matthew.
All right. Regards to item, I recommend approval. Let's see. Hold on. I recommend that, or my motion is that we recommend approval. I'm having trouble here.
You'll get there.
Star me.
I move.
Just read it. I move that we recommend approval of the proposed text amendment in Provo City Code 15105 to the City Council. This is item 3, the Development Services request Ordinance Text Amendment to Provo City Code 15105 to eliminate the existing exemption from the 100-foot river setback and streamline building permit procedures.
Awesome. Perfect.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll begin voting on my left.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And I will vote aye, and so item 3 passes unanimously. Okay, the next two items I will read in together. Before we do we need a break, or are we good to move forward, commissioners? Good to move forward? Okay, we're going to move forward with items 4 and 5. Corbin Church requests concept plan approval for an infill development and a restoration and reuse of existing homes in a proposed MDR zone located generally at 258 West, 200 North. And then item 5, Corbin Church requests a zone map amendment from the RC zone to the MDR zone for an infill development and a restoration and reuse of existing homes located generally at 258 West, 200 North. Okay.
All right, thank you. So the applicant has acquired these parcels of land here highlighted and is looking to do a development on this property. and also to be able to keep those existing structures that we see there. So kind of go through that proposal, and along with that is the rezone as well. So here's the proposed concept plan, where you can see that the plan to develop around these existing homes, kind of infill in the middle of that block there with new development. The parking for those existing homes is going to remain as it currently is. The new development, the new structures are going to have parking put in that will meet our parking requirements. So staff report talked about the requirement of 44 parking stalls. They'll be providing 58, so an excess of parking from our minimum requirements. Here in the concept plan, you can see that there's 5 existing houses along 300 West, and there's 2 along 300 North. So on those homes, the applicant is proposing to sell those and intending to sell those to owner occupants as single family homes. So some of those are currently duplexes and there's a triplex. His plan would be to sell those as just single family homes.
Nice.
The other existing structure that you see on the southeast portion there, that one won't be one that he plans to sell. It would be one that would be rented with the rest of the new product that's being built on the site. And then here are some renderings and floor plans that show those other new developments, the 4plexes and 5plexes that are being proposed here on the site. On the corner lot that's on 300 West and 300 North, there'd be a 4plex that'd be built there. His intention with that one is that the 2 units at the upper units would be owner occupied in perpetuity, and then the 2 units below that would be rental to help support those owner occupants. And then here is a look at the current zoning map. The property is currently in the residential conservation zone and a portion in the DT1 general downtown zone. And the request is to change this area highlighted in yellow to the medium density residential or MDR zone. The TIMP neighborhood plan, so on within the general plan, encourages that the RC zone is kept to help keep a mix of building types. This plan helps support the neighborhood plan that talks about redeveloping on a case-by-case basis, taking a look at each of those to make sure that those goals and objectives are addressed when there is a request to change the zone. So looking at protecting those unique fine grain housing mix that they have throughout the TIMP neighborhood. And so I think that the applicant is proposing to do that by keeping those existing homes that are there. And the applicant also has prepared some slides that he'll go through to kind of give more details on and be able to answer some of your questions on how he plans to accomplish all those goals. But that's kind of an overview of this project. I'd be happy to take any questions you have for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Dustin. Questions, Lisa?
Can you just restate or clarify for me? You said most of the houses are going to be the ones that are sold for owner occupancy, but then you said some of them were going to be rented. Which ones were which?
So the 5 of the ones on
the west
would be for sale, and the 2 on the north would be for sale.
It's just that one on the south
It'd
that's
just
not.
be that one on the south that's currently in the DT1 zone right there.
And then that one on the south, there's 2 structures behind it. Are those garages or what are those that you
Yeah, I
can
believe-
see to be at the end of the driveway there?
Yeah, I believe those would be accessory structures.
And they're getting removed? Because they don't show on the,
Yeah,
on
they'd
the
be
plan.
getting removed, and as you can see here, just the house would stay, and then
Okay.
parking and
And then I had a question about, the staff report said that the existing lots would need to be combined into one parcel. But it seems like if they are going to be sold, that they would also need to then be subdivided. So they're going to combine everything and then re-subdivide it for sale? Or will
so-
all the land be in one parcel still?
Yeah, I guess the portion that's going to be the new development plus that existing duplex on the southeast that we were just talking about, that would be in a parcel. These other homes would be individual parcels, those existing houses.
But right now they're bigger parcels, so they would be like essentially
Yeah, a new
reallocated.
plat would be
Okay.
done that would go
And
through all of that.
Then my last question is, are there any improvements or changes that have been proposed to those 7 houses that are going to be sold? Or are they just being acquired so they can use their land for the rest of the project? Is there any upgrade happening there?
Yeah, the applicant, I let him know that that's probably going to be something that
Okay.
he'll need to address, to talk about what his plan is to do with each of those homes to help. But I think in what he wrote up, he has some plans there, so we can hear.
I assume he wants it to be like this cohesive neighborhood, so that would be good to know about. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dustin? Yeah.
Dustin, can you expound? I don't know if the city, it doesn't specifically state in the staff report, but does the city care that it's a single car garage, not a 2-car, and that some of the units don't have garages, or as long as the parking count in total matches? Can you just help me understand if there's any code or anything that we should be thinking about in terms of that?
Yeah, as far as that goes, the code in that zone in the MDR zone doesn't have a requirement for covered parking. But they are planning to do some covered parking, and then the rest would be in just the parking, as you can see there.
Joel?
There was a comment submitted talking about the temp neighborhood plan, and it calls for widened sidewalks on 300 West. With this property being acquired and seeing major improvements, would they be required to install those improvements as well?
Yeah, it would be probably a question for our engineering for David Day. Probably answer that.
Okay. The other question I had is in terms of alignment with the general plan. So that northwest corner is shown as a park. That's going away. Is the city okay with that? Is the city seeking other areas in the temp neighborhood to find green space? Yeah.
Yeah, so in that temp neighborhood plan, they talked about there being a need for some more park space, and they identified this as a potential site, not that it has to be this specific site. And so, yeah, it's something that they put in there, is something that, they should be looking for those opportunities. Our parks department, things like that. As this is a vacant corner piece currently. So I think that's probably the reason why they kind of highlighted that as a potential place, but not as a required place.
Are there other locations near? I mean, I know there's a fairly large park up at, is it 500 North? But pocket parks are hard to come by, especially in a city that's built out. Are there other locations in this neighborhood where that's feasible, or are we giving up one of the few vacant lots in that neighborhood?
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure on if there's a more ideal location or not, but that would be something that they'd, Parks Department, I'm sure, can look through. But yeah, I think with the location of where that is and being vacant, that is something that makes sense. But I think some of the other goals that are in there, as far as being able to maintain some of that character that we get with those homes that are there. I think that's a good opportunity to be able to see something like this where those are converted back to single family homes. And so I think there's some of those trade-offs there, but it's not that there can't be other opportunities for parks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dustin.
Thanks.
We'll now invite the applicant to come forward, and you'll have 15 minutes for your presentation as well.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. Corbin Church, Provo, Grandview Heights area. I also started iHub, which is an incubator over here on Freedom Boulevard, helping young people get their businesses started. And I teach at BYU. I teach entrepreneurism, and I teach real estate strategies to young people trying to figure out how to make real estate affordable in today's age. The proposal here, this property has sat on the market for a long, long time. Many proposals have come to the city. I came across the property and I started investigating why it had sat on the market so long. I met with multiple people from the city and from the neighborhood to find out what's the problem here. The problem is that everybody who came in wanted to scrape the neighborhood. The homes are very old. 100+ years old, some of them. They wanted to scrape the neighborhood and put in a large multifamily complex. I will admit I had the same ambition, but I quickly learned from meeting with the city and neighbors that that was never going to happen. It wasn't going to gain approval. And so I started working with them on what would. And it's clear that the homes to the west cannot go away. Those need to stay. The neighborhood is looking for somebody who will bring in single family residences. And so in putting together a plan that would go through the commission and through the council, I created a plan that kind of works. Doesn't work financially, but it works pretty good. It works for everybody, I believe. And that is to maintain these homes. So this home, all of these existing homes, these will remain in place. They will be put up for sale. Some will be sold as is, some will be renovated. The second circle up from the bottom is already being renovated. Cosmetically, nothing structural, but it's cosmetic, interior and exterior, new appliances, new paint, new flooring, to be sold. Some of the homes will be sold as is so that people can have some sweat equity in them. But in all circumstances, we will be pushing single family occupancy on these homes. The first home was a triplex. It will be a single family residence with an apartment, if permissible through the city, and if the owner can get that through, then it would be an opportunity for an income producing resident for this income producing apartment for the single family residence. Number two, the second one up, there is an apartment scenario in that one. So that one also has an apartment. The third one up from the bottom is just a single family residence. The fourth one is a duplex. And so it would be a single family residence with an apartment. The fifth one up is just a single family residence, as is the case with the two up at the north. So again, the strategy with this, it's something that I teach and I push young people to do. And that is to buy a home and put an accessory apartment in it. And this is in the accessory apartment overlay, which helps make homes affordable for young people today. It's what I teach. It's something that I push. So that's the plan for those 7 residences. Not hiding anything. That is the intention. I'm starting to renovate them. I plan to continue to renovate them, to sell them, unless there is a situation where somebody wants sweat equity. This one right here is where you were speaking, Mr. Temple, about a park. That is a piece of vacant ground that's been vacant forever, as far as I know. That will receive a new home on it. It will be, I'll use the term twin home, but to make it pass with the apartments below, as accessory apartments below, it's a 4-plex. But both upper units would be owner occupied. In this situation, both upper units will be owner occupied by my daughters, their husbands, and their children. So my family is moving into this neighborhood. If that helps answer your question as to our personal commitment to what's taking place in this neighborhood. This is the twin home that we'll be building. The plans are done. Other than HVAC and electrical and engineering, they're ready to go for that property. Then you have a 5-plex, which is a triplex above ground with 2 studio apartments on either end. Another of those. Then 2 fourplexes. All of these units have 1-car garages with them. These 2 fourplexes also have studio apartments below them. Then there's a 4-plex to the east that does not have garages. There's nowhere to put them. There's no access. And so this 4-plex is without garages. And then the last unit is an existing home, and it didn't make sense to make this home single family because it's engrossed in the multifamily portion of the property. As you can see, this part of this property was DT1, as Dustin pointed out, and the rest was conservation RC zone. And it pops up to protect these homes. And so we came in and we said, all right, we'll work with you. How can we develop this close to the DT1 zone, yet keep these residences pleasing to the neighborhood? And I think that we found a situation that is pleasing to all, to the city, to the neighbors, and to us. We've worked with, there's an excellent neighborhood chair in this area. Shannon Bingham has brought everybody together. We've had meetings. We've discussed concerns. Their concerns have been heard and implemented. For example, this is the new floor plan. The suggestion was made, why do you walk in the front door right into stairs? And if you look, you now walk in the front door into a family room, and the stairs have been pushed back into the corner. It's one example of many things that the neighbors suggested and changes that we made based upon their suggestions. We've heard them, they've heard us. I think it's been a very good working relationship. We'll hear from them to find out if that's the case, but in this circumstance, your neighborhood chair did an excellent job, brought people together. We got the feedback, and I think we've created a project that's good for all. I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the developer? Yes, Matthew.
Can I just commend you? I think this is fantastic. It's
Thank
not
you.
perfect, but it's an amazing strategy that accomplishes lots of really positive things for the neighborhood. So thank you for working with the neighbors and coming up with something so ingenuitive. I hope it'll set a tone for others who will look and go, oh, that's a really cool idea. How can we make that work elsewhere where we have bigger lots or things that don't quite work?
Thanks, Matt. It's 1 block north of the courthouse. So it's very intercity.
Yeah.
It's right in the inner city. So it makes some sense. The neighbors want their buffer, but it's also right part of downtown. So it works. The math doesn't work very good, but it works as a project.
Well, I hope you can make it pencil properly.
It's going to be good enough.
Along those lines, one of the conversations we've had, and I think Jonathan has been a proponent, well, many of us, we've talked about the pencil idea for what happens if everything in the city, and I'm going to ask this question because I think you're an expert who can help us understand this. If every house has a ADU, an accessory unit, then theoretically, I guess, all of the housing prices go up in consequence of having that. But you made a statement that, hey, that's how they help afford the mortgage, right? Do you have any thoughts on that, on what happens over time as we allow this and the affordability aspect that an accessory? I'd just love to hear a minute or two of your opinion on that.
I'll be brief. It's massive for affordability. I teach it to young people. If you go look for a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, you're going to be north of $300 a foot. Those are in-demand hot commodities. If by contrast, you go find a single family home that has an apartment or in which you could build an apartment, and I recommend to my young people, you live in the apartment, you rent the upstairs. It makes better math. And it's about affordability for these young people. And so that's what I teach, and it makes it affordable. Somebody's paying half of your mortgage. In 2020, somebody was paying all of your mortgage. That's the shift we've seen. It's that dramatic. What does it do for your city? It's going to put some street parking and some things out there, but we use this term, the American dream. And that's living it. That's home ownership. That has become unaffordable for most. And so a single family residence with an accessory apartment is a duplex, not by technical definition, but by income producing definition, it's a duplex. And you're going to get it in the 220 range, 210 to 235 range versus $300 plus. That's where the economics lie on it. And so it's a strategic play to do. I think the city should continue doing it. We want young people in our city. And the way to get them here is to somehow have a play to make residential life affordable for them. For those who even think about it, they primarily are just planning to rent now. But for those who I can convince homeownership is important, this is a way to make it happen financially. I hope that answered your question, wasn't too long-winded.
I'd love to chat with you about that sometime because yes, he's right. I disagree, and I have toy economy models and stuff that I think on aggregate, it does not happen. Exceptions when you're the only one doing it, sure. But when it's on aggregate, I don't think it helps. But we'll focus on this item. Any other questions for the applicant? Yeah, Joel.
Maybe this is a question for the city or for you. Do active transportation or sidewalk improvements, does that come with the development of the site?
That's part of the condition of us
Okay.
building here.
Okay, because I know 300 West, I believe, is designated as a major bikeway. Yeah. So just like to see if there's already development happening. It's great to get those easy wins.
Yeah, we've been working with the city because of the economic situation of the community that we're doing. We have asked for city help with this. It has a deep gutter system and it has 4-foot sidewalks. But those are all around the developed portion.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're being made to widen to 6 feet. I make the argument of, but why? They've been there for a long time and I'm not developing them. So we've agreed to do it. We're working to split the cost. There is no agreement in place. And if I lose, that's on me. But that's something that I believe will come before you in the coming months of where are we going to apportion these funds? I forget the acronym, but I hope you'll be positive and see that we worked with the city to make this happen. Please work with us on the deep gutters and the 6-foot sidewalks. It's a shared responsibility.
Yeah, thank you.
But it is part of the development.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very
for your
much.
time.
We'll now open the public comment portion of the meeting. Do we have any neighborhood district chairs here this evening? Great, thank you. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments.
Hi, whoa, that's loud. Shannon Bingham. I live in the Timp neighborhood, lived there for 23 years, and I'm a District 5 representative. I want you to know some history about this lot. This half block has been eyed by developers since I moved into the neighborhood in 2000. Ralph Reynolds, born and raised in Provo, bought each home one by one over his lifetime living there so that he could preserve them from the fate of the high-density developer. When our neighborhood plan was created in 2017, we discussed whether to remove the residential conservation zone, but decided it's best to keep it in place. And these properties were one of the reasons why we didn't want to change certain areas of it, take the residential conservation out of certain areas of our Timp neighborhood. In July of this year, Corbin Church came to our neighborhood proposing his plan. And he just discussed that with you. The thing that swayed the neighborhood to supporting this plan was that each of those 8 homes along the outside perimeter that Ralph one by one preserved, that those would need to remain owner occupied in perpetuity. And we just want to make sure that that is written into the deed restriction or CC&Rs, whatever is required for that to remain. We're not thrilled that more rentals will be added to the neighborhood, but we understand that this is what needs to happen. We have 91% rental in the Timp neighborhood. So Yeah, we're not thrilled with that, but in order to have 10 owner occupied homes now with his daughters living there on the corner, we're happy to support it. 10 owner occupied homes is like a huge boon for the Temp neighborhood. We just want to make sure that we do have the reassurance that the existing homes and the 2 that his daughters will live in will remain owner occupied. And I'm wondering if it's somehow possible to, if Corbin Church decides to sell the properties, the units that he will be renting, if somehow it can be written into, I don't know what you call it, I think it's the development agreement, that when those are sold at some future point, that those could be owner occupied going forward as well. That's a suggestion. If you have comments about the vacant lot and the green space or the sidewalk,
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Soraya Hillam. I am one of the Mazer representatives for District 5. I'm also the vice chair on District 5, and they did come and present after they had met with the Temp neighborhood and presented at the District 5 meeting in September. There were a number of people who thought this was a very creative way to try and keep those homes while still getting more rentals in a place that will actually kind of need it, because we are in the downtown area. You are close to some good public transportation, and because you're right there with the bike lane, working along that bike lane, it's nice to be able to go through single family homes. As you're driving through that, it helps it feel safer for that bike corridor. We do recognize one of the comments that was made is that westmost, or no, the southmost triplex, we suggested that it have a entrance that was coming from the street instead of inside. And that showed in the last plans that he showed here, there were some people who were a little bit worried about how tight it would be to get in and out of the parking spots, and whether that if you're coming out of the garages, if you have space to be able to get out and turn. But other than that, it was generally positive. There weren't any people really against this project, and a number who thought that this was an interesting way to come at it, and we're very appreciative of how much he had worked with Temp neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. We'll now open it to the general public for comment. Each of you will have 2 minutes to comment. You're invited forward at this time.
Ethan Unclesby again. I live in this Temp neighborhood. This development would be just kitty corner to the complex that I mentioned before that I live in. I just bought a condo there with a down payment assistance from Provo. So I'm staying here in this Temp neighborhood, and I love it. I love seeing this. I know this doesn't matter to city planning, but this would be in my church ward, the boundaries of my congregation, and to see potentially 10 families with kids move in and stay is just a dream. If you're familiar with church stuff, our children's program has probably 8 total kids. My children are 25% of that, and they need friends. We live in what could be considered a child desert. There aren't amenities for children. There aren't neighbors for my kids. And I want to see this. I want to see good neighbors move in with kids that my kids could be friends with without having to drive them all the way up to Grandview and drop them off at a friend's house. I like this. I want to see it.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission for discussion.
If I could.
Who's going to go first? Daniel or?
I'll be short.
Okay.
I really appreciate the gentleman's comments from the Temp neighborhood. The diversity of housing options within a neighborhood at different levels for and different price points, different sizes. It can't be, I was going to say univocal, but it's not univocal, but it can't be like a one size fits all solution. I'm a big advocate, and I think there's a lot of planning principles that support diverse housing options, building a better community. And so this proposal is coming forward with proposing owner occupancy and home ownership in a downtown neighborhood is a huge boon and something I would support.
Great, thank you. Lisa?
I just had questions about the parking. I have been so wowed by this idea. Like, this is something that as a planning commission, I've been on the planning commission for 5 years, and this is something we've talked about so much, of finding this nice blend of density and that builds a neighborhood instead of tears it down. And I want to make sure that my eyes aren't so starry with the excitement of seeing something that we forget to look at logistics. And so I've counted about 33 non-garage parking spots and 33 units, some of which don't even have a garage. So how do the numbers fall? I didn't see any breakdown of what's required. And I just want to make sure we're not, if some of those parkings are, the driveways are counting for their parking spots. Is that what maybe those are on behind the garages? Like the twin homes with the ADU, that's the fourplex on the corner. As far as I can tell, the basement units have 0 parking. So I just want to make sure that you can tell me it logistically can work.
Yeah, so on parking, there are 10 one-car garages. 32 90-degree parking stalls, 9 45-degree parking stalls, and then 7 in driveways to get to that 58 number.
Which is higher than supposedly what's required, right?
Yeah, 44.
44 is required.
Is required.
Okay. Thank you.
Barbie?
I love this also. This is exactly the kind of like gentle incremental development that preserves the feel of the neighborhood that we need. And I'm really grateful for your passion, because that's the kind of person that we need to do this. It can't just be about I feel like we're not going to get what these neighborhoods need if it's merely just profit, like maximizing profit. And so thank you for that. Yeah, I think this is great. I really like that it preserves the historic homes, and even within, so that means within this, there's gonna be at least like 4 kinds of types of housing. We're gonna have single family, we're gonna have like small studios, duplexes, and yeah, so I don't know if that counts as a separate housing type, but it's a variety anyway. So I really like that, and I think this is going to be very nice. It has great access to amenities, and just need to figure out a park situation for this neighborhood.
John?
Yeah, so I also I think I'm very excited about this project. It looks very well thought out, meets many goals. Just curious about the alleyway, I'm going to call it. It probably has a better name. Access to the parking into the new places. What's the width of that? And is there going to be any concern about egress, getting out of that alleyway? It has perhaps a better term, driveway.
Yeah, so it'd be 24 feet wide on this section where it has the 90-degree parking, and then when it gets down to where there's 45-degree parking, it narrows down to 13 feet on those areas.
Okay, that was my concern, is looking at where they have this diagonal parking to the existing home and getting off onto whatever the street is there. Right by the Smiths.
300 North?
Yeah, 300 North. Is there any concern there? it looked pretty narrow when I kind of went by it.
Yeah, so with one way, is that the section you're talking about down on the?
Right, we're exactly where this is, the one-way section there going out onto 300 North.
Yeah, so on a one-way section, our code does allow it to go down based on the angle of parking. So 13 feet would meet that requirement.
Any concern by how close it is to the existing house there as well? I presume all the side yard will be taken up. It'll all be paved over. We'll have cars going right by, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tight there, but whoever ends up buying or I guess renting there is gonna know of that situation when they get there. But it is a tight spot there for sure.
That's a purchased owner occupied home, right?
So that one right there would be a duplex that wouldn't be for sale, just the ones that are on the.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking at the top by 300 North,
Oh
that
yeah,
one there.
those two on the top would be for sale.
So that's the one that's the narrowest, right? That's for sale with no side yard. Is there any concern about that?
So those are existing homes that have been like that. Yes, with the new one-way street there that brings that closer. I totally understand that concern, but again, whoever buys that is going to know that situation when they purchase it.
Okay.
Hey, Joel.
I also just want to say I love this. I live a block away, so excited to have some new neighbors. Some of my concerns that do come from living there and understanding some of the safety situation. So Freedom Boulevard, the only marked crosswalks are 200 North and 500 North. So you're adding a dozen new families, many of which, I mean, I walk to the grocery store here. I walk to the rec center. It's a great neighborhood. It's easy access to downtown. But getting to Smith's, which all of us that live west of Freedom have to do, is terrifying. Maybe this is more a city question. What are the options for making it safe for a temp neighborhood to access Smith's instead of having to walk 3 blocks either direction?
David, would you come up and would you repeat the question, please, Mr. Temple? He's talking about pedestrian access across Freedom Boulevard.
And I understand that's an
west east.
arterial. I know there are challenges to balancing the pedestrian and vehicle access. But right now you have to either walk up to 500 North or 200 North, and we're going to be adding 15 new families here. They're going to be walking straight across the Smiths and not going to want to walk down to 200 North or up to 500 North.
Yeah, so that is a safety issue. Our preference would be for them across 200. We have kind of a weird situation with the parking lot for Smith's. There used to be a Sears there. And so instead of having a street intersection, you have a parking lot. Had that, if that was a road going through there rather than a parking lot, we could possibly put a signal there to help with that. But with that weird situation, we're kind of stuck with what we've got. Marking multiple crossings that aren't city roads is kind of unsafe, but we were just kind of discussing that. We have that 3rd North bicycle crossing at University. We've got the 3rd North bicycle crossing at 5th West. So we really need to look at this intersection a little bit closer and see if there's something that we can do.
I can tell you, myself and my neighbors were scurrying across that road at 8 o'clock at night. It's dark out, and I'm not going to walk a quarter mile up the road to the crosswalk.
Yeah, so I don't know that it should affect your decision on this, but we'll work on that.
Yeah. Just curious about some of the safety improvements for this area, especially if we're adding some gentle density. It's nothing crazy, but it is more families. Considering how they're going to access the amenities in the area.
I agree, because if you cross University, you should be able to cross Freedom, and then you'll get across 5th West. So
it's kind of a gap in that bike network and walk network. I'm sorry, just one more question. At the intersection of, I think it's 300 west and 200 north. I think right now there are two-way stops alternating on all of those intersections. And as more and more density is coming into that area, it's getting a little more like there's not bulb outs. It's kind of hard to see around corners. Are there any scheduled improvements for that intersection?
Yeah, so as we hear of issues or we notice them, we study them, and we try to take effective measures to make the situation safer. For instance, if you go over on the other side of University on Second, you'll see that as kind of a bike.
Right, and there's bulb outs and roundabouts and
safety improvements there, and similar things could be done on that area too.
I don't know if that's something we can include as a condition, but certainly a consideration. I'd love to see some sort of improvements with that intersection.
Yeah, and those are a citywide improvement rather than specific. However, if we're redoing curb and sidewalk on that corner, we'll need to look at that corner specifically.
Thank you
for this project.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments, Matt?
So I see there is a playground / detention basin amenity listed, just next to the fourplex with no garages. Usually on any density kind of project, we talk about what amenities and how they meet, I think, historically. Can we talk about that for a second? I'm just curious, what's that really going to be? And is that meet? I know there's some math to be done on what kind of amenities are provided. Can you help us understand that a little bit more?
Yeah, so at the concept level, we don't really get too far into that.
Okay,
but when
so
they
that's
come back
later.
For a project plan,
Okay.
We'd have them explain what playground and everything, but we just conceptually are making sure they have enough space to meet the minimum size requirements that there are.
Okay. Based on some of the things, I guess the feedback to the owner is make that cool, make that whatever it can be for the children, families who will actually live here. I guess my other comment, I just like to, go on record with everybody. We're all clearly excited about this. This is unique. It's different. It satisfies something that we've hoped, I think, in one of our deep lot kind of ADU, and it wasn't an ADU. They wanted to subdivide. We talked about a couple of months ago. This is the kind of thing we all, I think, hope happens in those situations. And so I guess what I would hope and encourage is however we do this, maybe it's with the owner's support, but write a case study, get in the news. Like, I don't know what to do, but we need to tell people that this is happening and this is great. And we like this. We want more of this. And I don't know how exactly to get that word out, but maybe with iHub, we could get the word out, put it on the side of your building. But we love this. I think we want to support more of this kind of creativity that maintains the nature of the neighborhood while also adding valuable units, variety, all of those things that we talk about pretty much every meeting. So thank you.
Okay, Melissa?
It was asked about owner occupancy, and if Mr. Church chooses to sell, how do we maintain owner occupancy? Is there anything that the city has in place as far as going forward for that?
So yeah, you can, I guess, talk more with the applicant about that, what his plans are. He has proffered a development agreement, and he's mentioned that he'll push to sell them to owner occupancy, but he hasn't proffered an actual deed restriction or anything like that. So.
Thank you. Matthew?
But I think to clarify what the recommendation was is if he sells the renting units, that they turn into home owner occupied units. I'm not sure I feel the need to do that, but I'm also not sure that legally we
could do that,
could push for that. That's a lot to ask, if I'm being honest, for something we're pretty excited about. But I appreciate the need for owner occupied, but he's also giving many already. So I would be in support as it is, with maybe the deed restriction on record, a development agreement for the existing units, not some amount of time down the road. That's a pretty big ask.
But there isn't a deed restriction currently, even for those owner occupied units, right?
Yeah, that's correct. There's not a deed restriction that he's proffered. He has proffered to do a development agreement and with the intention to sell those to an owner occupant buyer. But yeah, he has not proffered to do that in any type of deed restriction that would require that buyer to do that. It's more in good faith. So that's important to understand that that's his intention, but it's not necessarily something that is a guarantee without a deed restriction.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
Will this subdivision or project plan come back to the planning commission?
A project plan would, so it'll go on to city council because it's a rezone. If the rezone gets approved, then they would need to come back with a project plan.
Okay.
And
I'm sitting here going, oh, is this going to have a fence here? And what are the backyards going to be like? But I don't need to worry about that if that's going to be something we see later.
yeah, at the conceptual level, we try to keep it somewhat basic so they're not putting too much money into something that
Okay.
might not even get approved.
Thank you. One thing that I thought we probably should discuss or just say again, I think the district chair said that she was excited to have 10 owner occupied units, but my understanding is there's only 9. That the one on the bottom is a duplex and won't be owner occupied. Is
For the
that
record,
correct?
the applicant is nodding.
Yes.
If that is correct.
So just in case that's a deal breaker for you, the one that's a duplex, he said he wasn't going to have be owner occupied because it was trapped between the commercial uses on Freedom Boulevard and the fiveplex. So that's what I heard. I wanted to make sure. Okay. For the record, since we're in the discussion phase, I literally have no problems. All of my questions have been answered. The only problems I have with this are city responsibilities to address the possibility of safe crossing of Freedom Boulevard and making infrastructure improvements along 300 West. So nothing's holding me back from saying this is awesome, thumbs up.
Yeah, I feel the same. I really feel like it's important to, I don't know, use all that we have at like the city's disposal to encourage this kind of thing. And so I also urge you to work with him to do those improvements. I use that street all the time to come down here when I bike down here. So
It would be nice to have a light for all of us to get out.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we make a motion?
I'm a
Yeah.
pinch uncomfortable with the density. Thinking about like a LDR might be better, but when making the trade-off with density and allowing more in an MDR type zoning, I'd feel more comfortable approving that if there was a good trade-off with owner occupancy.
It does say that there's going to be a development agreement that ties the density that's being requested to the zone change request.
Right, and I think I feel a little bit vague with that because I think it was 14 units
per acre.
Per acre is what they're proposing, but under the zone they're allowed up to 30.
But if the
And so-
concept plan
so
is
I-
also tied to the development agreement, then that sort of locks them
Yeah,
into what
I'm
we're seeing
wondering
here.
like how vague is that? Like is it just too not specific enough? Like is it like our general plan or where we approve something kind of in general, this is what the goal is. But how much leeway would there be up or down? 2 units, 1 unit, 3 units, 4 units, more? Like how much alteration would be allowed?
Can staff comment to that?
Yes, so typically in a development agreement, we attach the numerical density, the concept plan, and the elevations that they've given us. The house elevations or building elevations all go in to the development agreement. We do not allow any increase in density above that if something changes later. They can reduce density if they'd like, but they cannot increase it by even 1 unit.
What if they sell to somebody else who doesn't have the same footprint vision? Can does the zoning revert back to RC? Does it still say MDR? Like, how do they change it?
Because the development agreement is recorded, it stays MDR, that development agreement stays in place. And if the new buyer wants to do something different than what we got shown, they've got to go back to the city council and ask them to amend the development agreement.
So it's almost like asking for a rezone again because all the criteria would go with it.
Yeah, and at that point, if they actually ask for an increase in density, the city council would say, whoops, go to planning commission first before you come to us if you're going to ask for more density.
Well, at any rate, like I feel uncomfortable. Well, when trading off density, I feel it'd be nice to have something more in return and to accomplish a city goal. In the staff report, for item number 5, the owner occupancy portion and in the conclusion, it says, the owner occupancy requirements for existing homes and the 2 units in the new fourplex on the corner. I think it'd be nice to have owner occupancy requirements for some of the other proposed units as well. That's a wish list.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments?
Because just to, I guess, respond to that a little bit, I think what we're getting is maintaining 9 existing homes that stay rather than getting scraped. I think there's a lot already being given. But I am in support of the deed restriction idea as a way of maintaining home ownership in those, well, not quite all of those, right?
I mean, they could scrape all that, but that's only under a rezone. So anyways.
Okay, any other comments? Now, if I remember correctly on the deed restriction comment, we cannot require that, but we can recommend denial unless that was addressed. That's correct, right? And leave that at that. And it's a recommendation to the city council at that point, and they can do what they want with it.
And that's tied to the zone change request, not to the concept plan.
Correct. Yep. Okay, are we ready for a motion? Who would like to make the motion?
I'll go on. Is it item number 4 we're on?
Yep.
I move that we approve item number 4, Corbin Church request concept plan approval for an infill development and restoration and reuse of existing homes in a proposed MDR zone located generally at 258 West, 200 North Temp neighborhood.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's begin voting at my left.
Aye.
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 And I'll vote aye, and so item 4 passes unanimously. Okay, now for item 5. Do we have a motion there?
Did we want to recommend any other, I guess we would call them conditions, but besides the ones that are recommended by staff?
The only one that I think was discussed was the
Development agreement.
The development agreement. But again, we can't require that, so we have to word it carefully and essentially say we don't recommend approval unless that issue is addressed.
I would just read it like it is here, that whatever development agreement is proffered ties the proposed density and the concept plan.
Oh, I'm
to the
talking more
property.
about the deed restriction for owner occupancy.
Oh, no. That's why I was asking, is that an extra thing we want to say?
I don't think so. I think I
We've
don't think
talked
we need
about it
to.
enough. You're okay with it?
If someone wants that in, they could recommend denial.
Okay, I could make a motion.
Great.
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval to the municipal council for item 5. Corbin Church requests a zone map amendment from the RC zone to the MDR zone for an infill development and a restoration and reuse of existing homes located generally at 258 West, 200 North in the Timpview neighborhood. Timpanogos neighborhood. Timp neighborhood. Okay. And that the medium density residential zone come along with a development agreement that ties the proposed density and concept plan to the property.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's begin voting at my left.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, so it passes 7-1. Okay, so the next two items are also going to be read in together. Okay, so I've had a request to stop for a break, so we'll give a 5-minute break and reconvene at 8:30. Okay, let's go ahead and reconvene our meeting. I believe we're all back up here. And I will read in items 6 and 7 together. So item 6 is Trent Hatch requests concept plan approval for a 3-lot residential subdivision in a proposed LDR low-density residential zone in the River Grove neighborhood. And I believe Nancy is going to present that for us. Oh, and 7, sorry. I just said I was going to do that. Trent Hatch requests a zone map amendment from the R1.8 one-family residential zone to LDR low-density residential zone in order to subdivide the property and create new building lots. Okay, take it away.
So this is the lot. It is a 0.6 lot that is, you can see, irregularly shaped. It has, it actually has frontage on both 850 West as well as 1160 North. And the applicant is asking to change just a portion of that lot into LDR. You can see how I've kind of highlighted it there. And that is primarily because, or to have the ability to create 2 lots that are only 45 feet in width. The lots themselves would be approximately 6,000 square feet. The other lot would be about 1/3 of an acre. Staff did recommend that possibly the flag lot take the portion to the west so it doesn't leave one, irregularly shaped piece of land. They did have a neighborhood meeting and discussed it. The neighbors did ask questions about the size of the homes. They asked if there was any concern about irrigation ditches in the area. People also gave positive comments about improving the lot. We do have, or for my recommendation, it does say that I would recommend approval. I am now saying that staff recommends that the item be continued indefinitely to allow the property owner and the applicant additional time to resolve any outstanding issues. But we can let the applicant do a presentation and go from there so you guys can make your decision.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here this evening? Please come forward at this time.
Hi, my name is Trent Hatch. I think that what she was talking about, we've already addressed between me and the owner. She was just concerned that she thought after tonight that she'd have a limited time to find a new place to live and move out. We assured her that that isn't the case and that she'll have ample time to figure that out. And so she had it withdrawn. That's why you've seen it withdrawn and then added back in. So we've already figured that out. So we just ask that you guys approve it at this point. So if you guys have any questions for me or concerns.
Great. Thank you. I do have one question. I made a note in here.
I mean, pretty much it's pretty straightforward. We just want to be able to, the neighborhood's in favor of it. Everybody's loves it. We just want to be able to, I mean, it's an oddly shaped lot. So we're trying to make the best use out of it and creating new homes in there. The home that's existing on there is pretty old. If we can, we'd like to keep portions of it, maybe do an addition and keep that home and then just add the other 2 homes. But if not, we'd end up demoing it and then building the 3 new homes on all of them. But other than that, with the weird shape on the one lot, we were trying to keep all of those lots 8,000 square feet. Our initial proposal to the planning commission was to have that one lot be all the way to the end of it and the flag lot be a little bit less, but the depth and width of the flag lot needed to be 80 feet. And so that's why you see it kind of cut into the other lot. We would rather keep the flag lot to be a little bit smaller because it has 8,000 square feet. If we were to bring the depth and the width of it smaller, but Nancy said that there's no chance of that, so we just put it into the back corner of that wall. That's why it looks like that. But when we did that, that lot is still 8,000 square feet. That flag lot is about 9,000 square feet. And then the other lot is like 65, I think, or 7,500 square feet. So we tried to keep them as close to 8,000 as we possibly could, so that it fits into the rest of the neighborhood. But
Yeah, what do you think of staff's proposal to just extend the flag lot straight across and have two more evenly
I mean, I
sized
would
ones?
propose that on lot one, we just come straight back and then we could make, and it would make all of the lots 8,000 square foot if we just allowed us to make that R18 just a little bit less. We don't need that much building space back there for what we're trying to do. And then it would give the lot one a bigger backyard and more space, to have a garden or whatever you want to do back there. And the R18 lot has plenty of space, we'd move it over to the front. We'd rearrange it a little bit so that it has better wattage as well. And that would keep all of them over the 8,000 square feet, which is what we attempted to do. It's just the lot width and the lot depth that's stopping us. And if you measure from the front part of the flag lot, you have the depth, but if you measure from the other side, about, you have just over 80 feet back there. So it would cut into that. It would need to be just a few feet less. But it would work if you allowed us to shrink that R18 down, which is what we recommended. But she said that would work because she says that you can fit it this way. And so unless you can't fit it, then they don't really allow for a variance like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for the applicant? Yes, Lisa?
So this is a single family neighborhood in a single family zone with single family homes around it. I'm wondering why you're not thinking about just making two lots, one that accesses from 1160 north and one that accesses from 850 west.
It doesn't work financially to do that. So we wouldn't be able to build with the cost of the lot and buying it from the seller.
Okay.
So we need to be able to have three to make financial sense, or else we won't be able to do it.
Okay,
So
thank you.
It's a deal killer if it doesn't get passed, so we won't be able to build anything and just stay the way it is.
Matthew? No, you're good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now open the public portion of this item. Do we have any neighborhood or district chairs here tonight? Thanks.
So I'm Kristen Kramer. I live in River Grove and represent River Grove on the Neighborhood District Board for District 4. This did come before our last neighborhood meeting. I also posted about it on our neighborhood Facebook page, and all the feedback I got was overwhelmingly positive. As far as people that live right near this lot, I mean, it's currently very overgrown. And they would love to see this lot better utilized and taken care of. I know that in Provo, I mean, honestly, all over, housing is super unaffordable. It's hard to find places. I have teenagers and look at them and think, oh my goodness, how are you ever going to live anywhere near me? And so to be able to infill in our land and lake and, mountain locked city is really the main way we have to increase how many houses are available. And I want my kids to have options of where to live. And so to take this massive lot that is very underutilized and turn it into 3 usable homes on, honestly comfortable size lots. I'm in favor of it. Neighbors are in favor of it. The discussion about the ditch, I know one of our neighborhood neighbors had just asked. There's an exposed irrigation ditch on 1160, and it was more a question of, oh, hey, is this going to be required to be covered and put sidewalk over, or is it going to stay open? More of like a question, not necessarily a concern. Also the funky shaped lot, with the you know, you've got the flag lot and then, yeah, that one. Honestly, if there's a way to make a variance or something so that that backyard is a little more normal shaped and the R18 lot is just a little bit smaller. Honestly, I think in the long run, it would make maintenance of the funky shaped skinny backyard lot easier and would actually end up being better for the neighborhood. So I don't know what the options are. I'm pretty new to all this, but I think that would be something that would be worth discussing. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the public on this item this evening? Okay. Sorry, what? I am, yes. From the general public, any other comments? Okay. Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close the public portion, bring it back to the commission for discussion. Go ahead.
I just wondered what's the square footage, the square footage of those homes for lot 1 and 2? There was a slide that showed that, but now I don't see it in our packet.
See. Sorry.
I think a couple of them were
Yeah, there we go.
2,400 square feet,
That's what I'm looking at.
right?
So this is
Okay.
one.
With the LDR, side setbacks can be 8 feet and 10 feet. They don't have to be 10 feet on both sides.
So
So you can, I mean, you normally side yard setbacks are 10 feet on each side. In the LDR zone, it can be 8 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other.
Okay, Lisa?
So why was it necessary to try and do a weird shape if you can just go straight across from the driveway line on the flag lot where the 10-foot side yard setback line is? Why can't you just go straight across there and have everything be a nice little more rectangular shape?
So do you mean go, I'm just pointing at
Where
the-
Sandy's pointing the arrow,
She's moving.
actually
Well,
down
no,
further where the dotted line is on the
it's-
10-foot side
Why
yard.
don't you take this one straight back?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Right there,
Right.
straight across the driveway line.
That
where
makes
the
them all
10
more uniform and makes them all
And then
similar
they're all,
sizes.
and
Yeah,
it makes the two small ones a little bigger.
Right.
Is there a reason that just wasn't an idea that somebody had?
It just wasn't one of the drawings that came
Okay.
up, but certainly that could be.
That seems like it would be a whole lot more useful to all three properties.
Now it would make a 70-foot, just under 70-foot width on the R18 lot. What's the minimum width on an R18?
It's 80.
So that's probably
Oh,
why.
that's probably why.
Yeah.
Does LDR have a maximum size? Could you just make that one also LDR with the reduced? Because then it only needs 40-foot width, right?
I like that idea.
Yeah, LDR does
So make
not
'em-
say a maximum size.
Can we even do that if that's not what their application is? If we say we actually want to give you LDR for all three?
Well, what you could do, it wouldn't be quite as neat as just going straight back there, but I'm thinking like you could just go straight across from the line that's already there.
I think, sorry,
make
I think
sense?
with the reason that we did not allow, and I'm not looking at the code right now, but I think flag lots are not allowed in LDR. And that's why we had it changed from all of them being LDR to the flag lot staying.
And it would
in
be
an
80
R18
feet.
because, yeah. flag
Well, I
lots-
like Barbie's suggestion of, and the staff suggestion too, of having it go further to the west, just for
Mhm.
continuity's sake. They're getting a small lot, they're getting a small house on a small lot. I have a neighbor who has a little tag of land like that, and it's almost useless little tunnel behind a fence. So,
Yeah, it feels like we're just creating
Yeah.
another quasi flag lot.
So,
right.
so how do we get that done? Is that a variance? Do they have to request a variance?
No, it would just reconfigure the lines.
But if it doesn't meet the code,
No, this one would, because this isn't changing it to the side yard setback line at the driveway edge. It's leaving it where it is on the north side and just extending it all the way to the west.
yeah, but I thought she said that still doesn't give you that only gives you
That
70
does.
feet.
That-
Does it?
And that's what staff suggested to the applicant. And the applicant had said, when just came up, he was trying to keep all the lots at around 8,000 square feet. And so that's why
He was trying to give it a little more.
he was trying to give it a little bit more.
Yeah, I am concerned that back area just becomes weeds, right?
It would be an extra cost for somebody to try to fence that whole area and make it, usable in that way. And so that was the suggestion.
So if we wanted to allow them to keep them all at about 8,000 square feet though, would it be a variance for that flag lot to be able to be 70 feet instead of 80 feet? If you wanted to say, yeah, go ahead and take it at that driveway line.
Yeah, you can't give a variance for that. You would have to recommend a different zone that would make it conforming.
What zone would that
Because
be?
flag lots aren't allowed in a single family zone.
No, in LDR. So
In
it could be-
LDR,
It
okay.
could be allowed in like R16.
1-6, yeah.
I thought we weren't changing the R18 zone though.
We weren't because it currently exists as R18. And so we weren't asking for two zones. We weren't asking for, let's rezone this one R16 and let's rezone the other two LDR.
Oh, that's
We
right.
weren't asking for.
Well,
two
can't we just
changes.
leave can't we just make the extension? And I think what Melissa's asking is leave it R18 and then ask for a variance to have it be a 70-foot lot width instead of 80, which is why we can't move it to the driveway line.
Which Bill is saying you
Right.
cannot do.
Yeah, you can't grant a variance for that, and the Board of Adjustment would not be able to grant a
Oh,
variance
okay.
for that. You could recommend to the city council that the two lots facing
North.
are LDR zone and the other one is R16.
That's what I think. we
Because
should
it
do.
doesn't need to be 80 feet.
R16 zone only has a 60-foot.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Cause I just think that's, get it right,
Right.
Get
I
them all
don't,
the amount
I
of
think-
space that they deserve.
yeah, this is the main thing I wanted to talk about as well. I think this is, doesn't make sense at all. So I think that it should definitely, that is what I think our recommendation should be, that they rezone
We're
to
talking about
R16.
rezoning. We may as well rezone it right.
Right, and
Can I
that
invite
it
the
doesn't make a
applicant back
weird
up?
thing.
Sure.
Applicant, if you can come back up. So I assume you're understanding what we're talking about, right? The issue with the back corner
I do, yeah.
strip.
Yeah.
If it was an R16 that brought that down 10 feet and then extended it all the way across, is that something that you would find that you could support, or would that not fit what your plans are and your, how you've penciled this out?
No, if we rezone that to R16, I think that would be fine.
That would be totally fine.
I drew a picture of it with hash marks if you want to verify that what you're imagining is what we're saying.
Well, in the lot one, we thought about moving in ourselves, and we were gonna it's a pretty big area back there with 26 feet, but if we did rezone it to R16, it would work fine, but we were gonna put a garden back there and do gardening. Right now, we use a city garden for ours because we live in a townhouse. But that's what we were planning on using it for, so it is a usable space. It is 26 feet, which is still pretty big. It's not like it's like a 10-foot, but I'm all for.
But if we bump the line back, you would have 10 more feet of depth at 21 feet across. So you would
47
Yes.
feet across.
Yes, that
Yeah.
would work, yeah. If we're allowed to make that R16, then you're correct. The only reason we couldn't do that now is because of the 80 feet.
The 80 feet.
That stopped us from doing all that. And we went back and forth with Nancy on drawings. I turned in 3 or 4 different ones. And originally we had LDR on all of them. And then she said LDR doesn't work with flag lots. And so we changed it. And then we had lot 1 going all the way down. She says that cuts the R18 because of the width and the depth. And so we widened it back out to make R18 requirements. But if we did just rezone it to R16, that would work perfectly. And we could fit them all in there. Same way.
Yeah.
That'd be
that's
great.
cleaner. I like it.
It's my opinion that that's what we should do. We should recommend.
Assuming he's on board with any other delays or.
I don't think
Does it
it'll
would
cause
add,
delay,
would add
right? It
time?
would
Would he have
just
to
change our
reapply or no?
recommendation.
Okay, that's awesome then. Yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on this one?
I actually was wondering how big these bedrooms are in the smaller homes. It shows that there's 3 of them, possibly 4,
11 by 15,
and they're tiny.
15 by 13.
Can you read that? Oh,
13 by
it's right in
13?
front of me. I can't read that.
10 by 11, 11 by 11.
Is that not a really small room? That's a normal size bedroom? Okay.
I've had homes with 3 bedrooms that size.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not making something that's like 4 closets upstairs for Harry Potter to live in. So, okay,
No.
perfect.
Do you have something against Harry Potter?
That would be roomy for him.
Any other comments, Barbie? No? Are we ready for a motion then?
Do it, Lisa. You're the fastest.
Me? Okay.
Item 6 first.
All right, here we go. Are we asking for anything different? So this is, item 6 is for a subdivision, and that's where we're asking for the different things. So how do I,
Concept plan 7 is the.
but it's for
zone
the
change.
subdivision. So we're saying we want different lines for the subdivision. So we have to change both of them, right?
So if I would make the recommendation on 7 first, because you're deviating from the staff recommendation, you've come up with something new. So make a recommendation on 7 first to suggest those 2 zones. Then
Okay.
after that has
And then we'll
passed,
do the different
then
And then
lines.
we can
Right,
just say
right.
item 6 conditioned on matching item 7.
Okay.
Okay.
I am going to make a motion that we forward a positive recommendation to the municipal council for a zone map amendment, but we have changed it to an R16 zone for the lower parcel and LDR zone for the upper 2 parcels. Is that adequate description? This is for item 7. Trent Hatch requests a zone map amendment from the R18 zone to the LDR zone in order to subdivide the property and create new building lots.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll begin voting.
Aye.
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 And I'll vote aye. So item 7 passes unanimously.
Okay, want me to do 6 also? All right, I make a motion that we approve the concept plan in item 6 with lines slightly redrawn to get rid of the
So lot 3 would be
lot
R16
3
zoning.
would go all the way along the driveway line directly west, so that it eliminates that little line at the back. This is for the concept plan for a 3-lot residential subdivision in a proposed LDR and R16 zones in the River Grove neighborhood. And that's okay for me to add that extra zone in there. Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
I just want to make a comment that, again, this is one of those things that we really want to have happen. And I think city council, somehow staff, we need to get word out. This is the kind of answer that solves some of the problems that we've been seeing. And so my commendation to the applicant, to the discussion we've had, and now let's publicize this in some way to get other people to say, oh, we could do, that's a great idea. Let's get that word out.
And thank you to staff, because I know these plans probably come in a number of forms by the time they get to us. So yeah, thank you, everyone.
Okay, let's start our voting.
Aye.
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 And I'll vote aye. So item 6 passes unanimously as well. Okay, we are on schedule. So let's do item 8.
Thanks for staying all night. You guys have been here for a long time.
Item 8 is Provo City Public Works Department requests ordinance text amendments to section 15.3.20, paragraph 3, and 15.3.200 to update 2025 standards to 2026 standards. We got you here. We did it.
Hey, I know, I was secretly praying that you guys would finish before 9, so. David Day with Public Works. Some of you have been through this update in previous years. Those of you who haven't, every year
we look at all of our standards and specs and take comments from everyone, and we make changes to the specs for the new year. And so that's where we are tonight, is looking at 2025 and changing things to publish a new standard for 2026. So one of the changes is a text amendment, and it's just changing the numbers from 25 to 26. So that's pretty simple. Just so you know what you're approving, there's probably 3,000 pages of information here that we won't bore you with, but we've approved these in previous years, and we just continue to update them to the new year. So some of them we have control of. Our Provo City Public Works design standards and our standard specs, we have control of those. The rest of these are state and federal publications that we adopt and we use in all of the work we do. So this year we had 5 pages that we changed in our standard drawings, and 1 page was added, and 2 pages of our development design standards were edited and 1 page added. So that's kind of the extent of the changes. So I'll just quickly show you some of those. If you want me to explain these in real deep detail, you can. Previous planning commissions have just said, hey, can you move it along? So you can kind of see this first one will just a change of a name. The one on the right is a whole new drawing. It's a sampling station where we sample the water and then do testing on it for water quality purposes. So this is a brand new one that we're putting in throughout the city. So that's and then the next page on the left here is just the standards that go with it. You can see on the right, we changed a few texts on that standard. This is a geotech update on the left and some fabric underneath the fill material on the right. So another change that we were asked to bring forward this year was a request from the city council to eliminate the 24-foot width asphalt. And so we took this to our TMAC, and we talked about this for
a long time,
an hour and a half, probably. And so let me just read you what the TMAC's statement on this was. And I'm just going to read it straight from the email. TMAC does not feel comfortable advancing this proposal. The smaller streets likely make building houses more affordable, and the slower speed of traffic and shorter crossing distance is a benefit for safety. We recognize that there may be issues related to parking and utilities, but don't have enough information. As the council considers this recommendation, we invite them to consider what the motivation is for this change and to seek input from residents of streets where this design already exists. So that was from the TMAC after discussing it for an hour and a half. So this graphic, you can see the 24-foot width on the top, and we have both of these already in our spec, the 24 and the 30. The 30 would be our new lowest width. So I just wanted you to kind of compare those. And again, this is at the request of the city council. So this wasn't something that we had anticipated bringing this year unless it was requested by them. So
are we allowed to ask questions as we go, or are we waiting until we're done?
Let me kind of finish and then we can go back to this. I've only got like 1 or two more slides, so if you can just bear with me. So if the 24-foot width was eliminated, we would eliminate that spec there. We would eliminate the stuff on the right with the strikeouts through it. This would be our city code that would have some strikeouts through it. And so that would be the extent of the changes. So let me go back to this and you can ask me any questions on the regular spec changes or this 24-foot width change. So
Okay, thank you. Matthew?
So what's the city council's logic for getting rid of it?
What was portrayed to us was safety. They had driven through some of the 24-foot width roads while houses were being built, and you'd have construction workers parking on both sides of the road, and it was hard to get through. And they were fearful that that if somebody needed an emergency response, they wouldn't be able to respond to an incident on the site. So our 24-foot width requires no parking on one side. Our 30-foot width allows parking on both sides. So that's a key point between the two. Is
I just think getting rid of a narrower street is not wise. The issue is we didn't ticket those construction workers, but you could have called the police and said, come ticket these. We can't let this happen. And we shouldn't allow illegal stuff anyway.
Yeah, a lot of this happens in my experience while the subdivision's under construction, and most of the homes aren't occupied at that point.
So
but eventually we'll have no parking signs on all the 24-foot wide streets with no parking on one of the sides. So somebody will lose parking on, their side, and the side that will have no parking is the side that has the fire hydrants on that side, so that the fire hydrants will always be accessible.
I think the other response that someone's having is people drive too fast, but narrower streets with more parking actually slows people down. So I think there's no reason to get rid of it.
This is why T-Mac talked about it for an hour and a half, because we were debating safety from both sides of the argument, that wider streets doesn't necessarily mean safety across the board.
Yeah,
So
I'd leave it as an option, but
yeah, we need to do public comment. So
okay.
Any other questions for staff here? Yeah, Joel.
Do you have some examples of streets where the 24-foot is a standard, just to sort of visualize?
Roads. So we have closest one to right here. It's in all of our newer developments where we're building a brand new road. Not all of them, but anytime we have less than 400 vehicles per day on the road, we allow this width to go in. So it's a low volume situation. You see them on a lot of cul-de-sacs, a lot of really short road segments. I'll find a few examples and email them out to you guys. Drawing blanks of where I could direct you right this minute.
is your recommendation that we follow the recommendation of the Transportation and Mobility Advisory Committee, or do we just nod to it and send it on to City Council?
So as an engineer and a representative of Public Works, we develop these standards and we feel comfortable with all of these widths that we already have. And so we would just look to your opinions and the City Council's opinions on what to do on this issue.
Okay, Melissa, did you have something? John?
Yeah, so did I see on the document that you went through that if it's a 24-foot wide road, it's it's one way only?
No, it's two-way.
Okay.
But no parking on one.
No
side.
parking, but two way.
Yeah, that-
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it possible to help some of these issues to when the road is being put in and the neighborhood is being built, to put up the signage or temporary signage indicates
Like
that no
one
parking
way only or something.
or no parking this side, something
Oh,
like that?
yeah. Yeah, we need to get the parking signs
there
up
we go.
quicker.
It's up on the screen.
Yeah, so thank you, Bill. This is up, 40.
I remember this.
80 north, just east of Canyon Road, 470 east. So that there's, you can kind of see how this two cul-de-sacs and then the connecting roads, those are all 24-foot wide right there. So that's a good example.
Do we know the feedback from the neighbors, since parking is always an issue? Do they find it constrained when they have guests come to visit, or are they fine with the one side parking?
I don't know that I've ever had a complaint about the width from the resident that lived on the road. So I would have to probably talk with some of our traffic folks that filled those phone calls, like Vern Kiesler would be. I'd have to ask him if he's had any. I'm not aware of any issues there.
Yeah, I
That
feel
was
like that would be a
another-
very helpful data point to know we have them in the city. How are they received? How are they working?
That was another concern that TMAC expressed was, why don't we ask the residents how they feel about it and how they think the positives and negatives weigh?
Yeah, because
can
if
kinda
you
see
have
on
no
that aerial,
parking,
sporadic cars parked here and there, and they are very low volume roads. So if somebody had to stop and wait for somebody to come through, it's probably not a big deal.
So I had another question kind of related to this. Coming back to traffic calming discussions, do you feel that currently I think you're using the MUTCD manual. Do you feel that that gives you enough bite to accomplish the city's goals for traffic calming measures? Do you feel like there are other standards out there that would be worth adopting or looking at? I know AASHTO is a pretty popular one.
Yeah, so when we developed the 24-foot wide road, it had a lot of components that went into that width. We were trying to get the narrowest road we could possibly support, and that ended up being 24. We also have curb and gutter on both sides of that. So you add from face of curb to face of curb, you've got the pan of the gutter, so you get another 1.5 feet on each side. But which ends up face of curb to face of curb is 27 feet, which our fire folks felt comfortable with that width for fire response. And I don't know if we've got Lana. If I say something wrong, Lana will give me a smack or something. But he could comment on that.
Even just more generally than
Gordon's
this
been sent
particular
to smack
cross section.
Yeah, so what I was gonna tell you is, we have a list of about 30 roads we're about ready to put signs on that have had parking. And what's really fun is we have this, what they call a dashboard that we look up and see how many complaints we get in a month. And guess who gets the most complaints? It's Bill. And this month there was 120 complaints on parking. Public Works will get like 12 complaints on signals. And so Bill 10 times us on parking. And so when you look at this, we're good with both sizes. We think they're fine. The issues are going to come down to quality of life. If it's more important to look at the controlling the speed, keeping a smaller road, or we're looking at ADUs, home businesses, people parking, you're going to get a ton of complaints. So there's two sides to this issue, and we're about ready to really double the complaints for parking when we go out and start putting these the reason we bought the fire marshal here, we can't leave these roads this way. We're gonna have to put in hundreds and hundreds of no parking over the next 2 months. And the complaints are going to come in. I'm anticipating a lot of complaints. And so I think the council's anticipating a lot of complaints. And so there's going to be a lot of pushback. Developers are going to generally go to the 24-foot because it's a lot cheaper. Again, from Public Works, we're good with both. We can build both. From an accident standpoint, there's no more accidents at a 30 or 24. They're the same. So safety-wise, they're the same. We put all the same effort into both of them. Maintenance is a wash. So really, it's a quality of life. Are you looking for the traffic calming, or are you looking for people that want the more parking? And so from engineering, Public Works, Dave said it right. You can toss a coin whichever way you go. We're really excited about either one.
I think there's also some frustration with some members of the city council that narrower road is definitely a monetary savings to the developer that isn't passed on to the home buyer. The homes sell for the market value, even though the developer spent a whole lot less money building the subdivision. And then the city gets saddled with these parking complaints that go on for years after the developers walked away.
Okay.
I think it's a big deal, actually. I mean, I think about if that were my neighborhood where you could only park on one side of the street, that would be really bad.
Let's go ahead and see if there's any other questions for Dave, and if not, let's do our public comment and then we can have this discussion. Say what?
Gordon needs to tell us who he is.
Oh, can
Gordon
you come
Haight.
up and tell us who you are, just for the record?
Sorry. Gordon Haight, Public Works Director.
Great.
And we do have the fire marshal here. He's only going to be here for about another month, so we wanted to drag him out here. So if you have any questions about why we're doing that.
Thank you.
Jonathan, can I ask a question to Gordon?
Yes, please.
So I think you just said that you have to go out and put in signs. So there's streets, these 24-foot streets haven't been parked on one side since they're.
Right. So people right now are parking on both sides of streets and all over the city. Some of these are really old roads. Some of these are brand new roads, but we're getting ready to, we've been meeting with fire marshal. So this will be, I anticipate a lot of people, we're getting ready to do the big communication effort, let them know we're going down these streets. And it is a public safety in terms of not having parking on both sides. Yeah, we're going to have to eliminate it. And like Dave said, we're going to eliminate it on the fire hydrant side, so we leave the most available parking we can, but the non-fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it is an important decision. Developers really like the smaller roads, but like Bill said, I don't believe there's any cost savings to the residents. And I think these issues are surfacing to the council, and so we're going to start seeing this issue hit pretty hard.
Great, thank you. Any other questions before we go to public comment? Okay, so let's go ahead and open it for public comment. Are there any neighborhood district chairs here this evening to comment on this item? Not seeing any, we'll open it to general comment. Anyone wanting to make a comment on this one? Please come forward. You'll have 2 minutes to make your comment.
Name is Alexander Monson, been a resident of Tree Streets for a while. Beyond just the general, like my general understanding that narrower tends to be much safer in terms of street width when you're building. There are more cost savings to consider than just what gets passed down to the resident. You are saving on costs every time you have to maintain that right of way, every time you have to repave or resurface. So there are still like benefits to having less pavement generally, even if it's not getting costs, even if that savings is not getting passed down to the buyer right after the developer's finished with it. It's still less of a burden on the public if they're not paying to maintain it. Just that beyond the safety concerns. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this item? Looks like your plan worked. We got the fire chief.
Yes. Lynn Schofield, Fire Marshal, City of Provo. Yes, is this gonna make people unhappy? I'm the fire marshal. We're okay with that. I make people unhappy all the time. It's okay. We get past it. So here's the concern. The reality is we do have some 24-foot roads. Some of them are new, some of them are very old, that were built under previous standards. The challenge is if you have 24 feet of pavement and you take away, let's say 6 feet by parking a car on one side, now you're down to 18 feet of pavement. You put a car opposite side, now you're down to 12 feet of pavement. The fire code appendices, Appendix D, which is fire access, calls for a 20-foot fire access for any structures, residential, commercial, and in fact, if there is a fire hydrant, you're supposed to go 26 feet, 50 feet in front and 50 feet behind the fire hydrant. So you have access to work around the fire engine, hook into the hydrant, getting a water supply. I drive a fire SUV, a 2000 whatever Ford F-250 crew cab. And there are streets in our city that I have a hard time getting down in my fire SUV. And when you think of the size of my Super Duty Ford, and then you compare that to the size of my 35-foot ladder truck that doesn't bend in the middle, or my ambulances that are substantially wider than 6 feet. We get to a point where we actually have reports where our first responders have had to park outside of the cul-de-sac, a couple 100 feet away from the house that they're responding to because they could not get down the cul-de-sac in an ambulance. So there is a public safety component there. I think that the standard fire access requirement, according to the adopted Appendix D in the International Fire Code, is 20 feet. I think that allowing parking on one side of the street is not going to keep us at 20 feet. But it's a good Solomon split in the baby, saying that if we allow parking on one side of the street, the non-fire hydrant side, then that's the best option that we can come up with and still maintain our ability to respond and to effectively mitigate medical and fire situations. The theory behind the 20 feet is that you can have two fire apparatus pass each other in that fire access. And I can tell you at 16 feet, you can't do it. So my recommendation is bite the bullet. There's going to be unhappiness. But I think in speaking with Public Works and Vern, and love these folks, have worked with them for a long time. I think that's the best option, is to allow the one side of the street parking. And we have, I'm leaving now, so I can throw bombs I'm not going to be around for. As a city, we may have to look at some other alternatives where we have parking issues on some of these roads. That's something that's going to be a generations past mine. But I think in the interest of public safety for those 24-foot pavement, I think that the best option is to allow parking on one side. That still allows us our fire access. And so that would be my recommendation as a fire marshal.
Okay. I think we have some questions for you, if you don't mind staying for a second. Oh, you're right. Okay. If you'll stay up here, we're going to finish public comment, and then I think we have some questions for you specifically. Any other comments on this item? Okay, not seeing any, we'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Let's go ahead and ask the fire marshal back up any questions you guys have for him.
So you recommended that we allow parking on one side, but what about future streets, new streets? Because isn't this question, do we allow 24-foot streets going forward, or do we just keep the standard now at 30 feet for new streets? What's your recommendation?
I'm always going to go for the 30-foot street. If my public works folks are content with offering the 24-foot with the caveat that there's going to be parking allowed on one side and the other side is going to be clearly marked citable and towable. I'm not opposed to 24-foot roads. I mean, I would prefer 30-foot roads, but I'm not opposed to it. I just think that this is one where we kind of let it get away from us, and we've got to kind of rein it back in a little bit.
And the other thing is let me just make sure I understand that you said the safety is actually better on a 30-foot road than on a 24-foot road.
Yes.
From a fire response.
For fire response, there's more room.
I have a question about that though, because if you allow parking on both sides, then you've essentially reduced the road surface to the same as if you only allowed it on one side with a 24-foot street.
For all intents and purposes, yeah, you're correct.
Okay. So,
But-
I mean,
But
in
you've
plate
doubled-
times where they're not parked
Right.
on both sides.
But you've doubled your parking.
Yeah.
And the parking, I mean, I have heard from some neighborhood folks on a specific street I addressed with my F-250. And there is going to be some pain. They're doing it now for garbage day. So it's worked in that scenario. But yes, I'm always going to take more.
Any other questions for him? Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, other comments, thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think we should keep the 24-foot standard, and where it's applicable, do parking on one side. If people are like, oh, it's all on one side, we could alternate it. I think that's possible. But I feel like this is going the wrong direction. As the public comment pointed out, like more asphalt is more maintenance, no matter who pays for it initially. And I mean, how much asphalt is that? Let's see, 30, we're increasing it by 6 feet along. Yeah, it's a 20% increase in asphalt and for maintenance. And that's not just, it's like, there's the land use aspect, like opportunity cost as well, absorbed into that, but also, you're opening up, it's like a blank check, really. It's like you're opening up future costs. They could be a lot more expensive than you think they will be. And so I think this is absolutely the opposite direction Provo needs to go. I'm honestly not surprised this was a street in that part of Provo that prompted council to talk about this. I think we actually need to go in the opposite direction though and move to the NACDO or ASHTO standards and make bulb outs and daylighting and rain collection gardens standard, rather than thinking of all these things that make daily like safety on a daily basis, especially for children. This would make it more dangerous, especially if there's parking on both sides. You have no visibility when people are crossing the street. And so I just think that's more important. If it's like all the same in terms of what fire is having to deal with, whether it's parking on both sides on the 30 or parking on one side on a 24. I think the daily safety of the residents of a street should be the most important thing. I've struggled with this on my own street. People go 45, 50 miles an hour on my street. It's a 25-mile-an-hour street. Why? Because it's too wide. And Vern himself has told me that the design speed for a 25-mile-an-hour street is 30 miles per hour. So it's designed for people to go 30, but they mark it as 25. So like, I just think this is compounding all the problems we have with speeding, lack of safety, lack of visibility for pedestrians. And it's frustrating because all of, like we mentioned, all of the things that come before us, people complain about safety for kids, safety for, cars, like trying to turn and things like that. And we're not doing any of the things that address that. And I feel like I don't think that's right. So I just frankly think this is really dumb. I'm sorry. To propose that we don't have this option at all. And the vehicles are supposed to move out of the way and not park where there's no parking for the fire right of way. That's illegal to do that, and we need to enforce it. And if there's anything I've seen is so solidly part of our culture, it's exceptionalism. And I feel like everybody wants to be the exception. They want to have what they want, and they don't want to have to, if they want to break the rule, but they don't want to be responsible for that. And so I just don't think that's right. I think we need to do better about enforcement on all of these areas. And we're not going to fix any speeding or safety issues if we continue to make the streets enormous and not right-sized for the speeds we want that are safe for human beings to be around.
Okay, I'm going to take the opposite tack here because I don't think it's dumb. I think there's big arguments on both sides. Public Works, if you can come up, I thought you said that really the maintenance costs on 30 versus 24 isn't that different. I'm guessing that's because the labor is about the same and then maybe a material cost, but it's not that
Yeah.
much in the end. Is that right?
Yeah, I wouldn't make a decision on maintenance. I'd make a decision solely on the quality of life. If you want, we can nitpick all the other stuff, but in the reality of things, those aren't meaningful in my mind. I think it's what is best for the resident that's living on the street and involved there. So I think that's what we're all talking about here. There's side of it to slow it down. There's side of it to have parking. Public Works, we're ambivalent, so we'll go either way.
Great, thank you.
So in a place where we have a lot of ADUs, there are cars on both sides of the street constantly. So where are those cars going to go if you said you can only park on one side of the street? So if we want to increase the ability to have ADUs in places, if we have too many of these streets where it's only one-sided parking, yeah, it's two competing
Issues.
ideas, right?
Yeah, and I can see both sides of it, but I think what I see is, well, I live out west on Center Street. We just restriped the roads, took away the parking, right? Put bike lanes there. I constantly see cars parked in the bike lanes, right? They do it anyway. They think I'm not here for very long, whatever. And I'd hate for a loved one to have an emergency. The ambulance gets there and has to wait for a tow truck to get there to remove the car. Like, I don't like that situation, and I just see it as a nightmare. I don't see a huge difference other than we double the parking, which we are constantly being told by people, there's not enough parking. I can't park in front of my house. My guests can't park in front of the house. And so I see that kind of side of things too. On the other side, I do see the traffic calming benefits of a narrower street and the more visibility you would have if you did not have street parking, right? And so I think there are good arguments on both sides. For me, I'm leaning towards, hey, let's just stick with the 30-foot because I think we gain more than we lose in that case. John?
So I have a question for Bill. I think it's for Bill. If this is in the code as it currently is, where the 24-foot is allowed, how much say does the Provo Planning Department have over what choice is used? If a developer wants to put a 24-foot road in, can they do that and you don't have any say in it? Or can you specify that, hey, in some conditions it's acceptable, but in others it is not?
The discretion is with the Public Works Department, and they base it on trip generation. If you have to have less than 400 trips a day, or you can't do it. Is that correct, David? Yeah. So if your trip generation is going over that, which means if it's more than a certain number of lots.
So that's why it's really used for cul-de-sacs,
smaller development,
small neighborhoods, small development.
Right.
So, okay, thank you. Because I was wondering, is it possible from what we're talking about? Because it seems that in some neighborhoods, the parking is not going to be an issue on one side of the street if there's large frontage, sparse homes, but if they're tight homes, and you probably do need that extra parking if there's small lots. But I don't know if we can specify that. My second question was, there's a lot of changes that are being proposed. This is the only one we have any questions about?
Yeah, I mean, I have serious doubts about 2026. No, just kidding. Most of the others seem pretty straightforward, right?
Okay.
And needed that way. Now, you brought up an interesting question. Is it possible to maybe keep this, but put some very limited conditions about when it can be used so that it is only places where maybe ADUs aren't allowed and house frontages are over certain limits, something like that, where we feel like we just don't need that much parking in that area and just limit it to special cases. I don't know if that would be a middle ground.
It sounds like that trip generation number already accomplishes that.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's low enough if they've already had issues, right? I mean,
Have they though? Or is this just somebody on city council who drove on that street and was annoyed?
the fire marshal seemed to indicate that the ambulance has had to park outside, right, is what he said. So now, was that because someone chose and there was plenty of room to everybody park on the same side? I think there's some study that could be done there about what those limits are, but it doesn't sound like 400 is perhaps good enough. Maybe it needs to be more stringent.
I think one of the things we need to keep in mind is this item before us, it's a legislative item, right? We're recommending something to the city council. So maybe I'd like to make a motion to move that we approve it, but that we take that time to address council or commission member by commission member concerns we have that we'd like city council to address or consider in.
Yeah, I mean,
in-
one
in
way we
adopting
can
those
do
standards.
this, city council has encouraged us to use straw polls. And so one thing I think might be interesting is to separate out the 24-foot one into a straw poll and do it, and then do a general recommendation.
Yeah,
And that.
there's part of me that thinks this is something that could really go 50-50. I mean, some people are gonna like it, some people aren't, and
So then we can send that idea.
yeah.
My worry is if it's in the recommendation, then people will not know how to vote because the rest
Right.
of it's fine, right?
There's also the issue of that, there's gonna, new city council people have been elected and like, I feel like this is a little bit like, let's get this in kind of.
When will this be heard by city council? David, do you know? When will it be heard by?
First
city
or
council?
second meeting in January.
Okay.
It'll be with the new city.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Matthew?
Sorry. So two thoughts. One is there's clearly a pain point in the fact that we got to go back to streets that have existed with the 24-foot width now. That's, yes, very painful. I would hope that if we kept it in the 24-foot, that we could get developer on any new street, they put in the sign, the neighbors, if you back over it, you pay for a new sign. If you dig it out,
When you
because
buy the
really
property,
want-
you know
you
can
know,
only park on
yeah.
one
So there's
side.
clearly a different problem about some of this right now, I think, than what we're really voting on. I'm swaying a little bit in my mind, but I want to go back to something that came up on an earlier project, the bulb out idea. Can Dave, I think maybe you're the right one, right? We have, I think it was made mention that maybe we're more aggressive or more interested in having some of these other traffic calming, especially where we have lots of pedestrian crossings. Can you speak to where those are showing up or what the strategy at the city level is? Because I'm much more inclined to go 30 feet as the norm if I know that bulb outs are now much more common and the actual crossing space is more like a 24-foot or even less road than because there's no parking in that crosswalk space or close to the crosswalk
so
space.
currently, right now, all of our intersections require bulb outs in residential areas. So you'll see those neck down at the intersection.
In all the new development areas that.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
what is the width between curb at those?
At those neck downs, it's 24 feet wide.
On a 30-foot road.
So
On 30-foot.
So the 30-foot comes back to 24.
24.
What about a 24?
On 24, it stays 24, so it'll just look like a normal road without a neck
Okay.
down.
So I actually think a bulb out is actually more valuable than staying at 24 for the whole stretch. I think it visually changes something for a driver.
Yeah, you'll
So I'm actually more in favor of a 30-foot road with that in mind because of all the other benefits while also traffic calming, making it easier on pedestrians. I also know that one other question that's kind of tied to this, but what is the radius of the corner? I know some places I walk, it's like, wow, the cars come around because it's such an easy turn. They're flying around the curve versus a much tighter where they have to slow way down because they're really making a 90-degree turn.
Yeah, so comparatively, so out here on some of the UDOT roads, that would be most likely a 35-foot curb
Okay.
radius, where on our residential roads, we have a 15-foot curb radius.
Okay.
So it's very tight.
Okay, thank you so I'm actually more in favor now. That actually clears up a whole bunch of stuff for me personally.
I'm also totally comfortable saying, here's all the things we talked about in the report of action and take it into account because they can disregard anything we say anyway. So I feel like why spend another half hour making a list when we've talked about it and they can consider it. I'm
So
sorry.
Yeah, I think that's why a straw poll.
Clarification. So in my I live in a new neighborhood in Provo, and I believe I have 30-foot wide streets with a 20-foot width at bulb out. I think it narrows down to 20 feet
It-
at the
Could
intersection.
be. It may have been a mistake though.
He's in
Okay.
Broadview
I just
Shores.
measured it on Google Maps, which you
Okay,
can get
yeah.
to, and it's the 30-foot street. I think it's a 20-foot at the bulb out, which is
Yeah.
pretty tight,
Broadview
Yeah,
Shores.
It is.
Are you
which I'm
counting the
happy about.
gutters? Maybe that's the difference. Are you counting the gutters in that?
I measured both ways, so whatever measurement I'm getting, I get 30-foot on one and 20-foot on the other.
Okay.
If it was that, I would be okay with it because I do think 24 is still too wide, even with the bulb out for 24 feet. My street is 10-foot lanes and it's a disaster. So you really, to slow cars down, it has to be tighter or else you're not doing anything. That's 12 feet per car. That's like,
Yeah, so I-15, a standard width is at least 12, sometimes a little wider.
right.
What is the realistic narrowing when a car is parked on each side?
And so in Provo, on our main roads, we're wider, but when we get down to residential roads, we cut them down to narrower widths. So if you were listening to Lynn's explanation of it on a 24-foot wide road, we actually have 27 feet from curb to curb. We count 7 feet of that 27 as a parking car. And then we still have our 20 feet left over for the fire truck.
So this is on a bulb
Access.
out or on the whole street? You
This
mean just a
is on
regular
a
street?
A
Okay.
whole street.
Okay.
And so in that situation, you have 20 feet of travel, which gives you 10-foot lanes in those situations.
But I'm just talking about the bulb out needing to be more narrow. That's what I'm
Oh.
talking about. And theoretically, there's not going to be any parking, right, on the bulb out because
No
it's-
parking on
yeah, there's no
bulb
parking.
outs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I see. You're saying
So-
the bulb out should be even narrower.
yes, if it's 30, because you have cars on either side, and that's in practical terms making it be 24 or 18 or whatever we said,
18.
18.
Mhm.
And that's,
So
n-
that
that's,
it's
you
the
can still,
same.
you can still speed, you know, at
The
9
same
feet.
slowing as if you put the cars on one side. You've got the same distance.
Right.
Now you've parked cars on both sides.
But you need to have the bulb out being more narrow to slow anybody down.
Yes.
Got it.
It needs to be more narrow than, so that's what I would say. If you're going to keep the 30, the bulb out needs to go down in size and, you know,
Yeah. We
to,
That seems
to
like-
tighten it more.
That seems like a really easy recommendation to tag on and
Yeah.
move this along.
Yeah, I think so. So, how do we want to go about making that recommendation part of it? Because I think we don't have issues with any of the other edits, right?
What if
That's
we just
clear.
said that we would be comfortable with the 30-foot, getting rid of the 24-foot width if the 30-foot roads were required to have larger bulb outs so that it was a smaller space at the intersection?
9 foot or smaller lanes,
9 foot?
9 foot per lane.
Oh, okay.
I will
So,
say
18.
I defer to engineering on what that width should be because you've got cars turning and a turning car needs wider than a straight going car.
If you want them to keep going at the same speed.
Well, no, even when they're going slow. I mean, I'm amazed how many cars cannot hit the lane and they end up on the shoulder and have to come back in after they turn even a left turn, right? So that's an issue for me.
So talking to Lynn, our fire marshal, one of the things I wanted to comment on, when we look at these bulb outs, there's a lot of effort going into it. So I think we look at fire truck radiuses, snow plows. So I don't think we'd be able to design something here tonight or make the recommendation. I think if there's something we want to look at, we can certainly take it back. I don't think we're prepared to talk about any adjustments because we have to look at the whole package. So
So maybe a generic reduction of whatever engineering deems is the safest,
And I
but
think
narrowest
there was a lot of
bulb
work to
out.
get to where we're at. So it's probably not going to change much unless we really do some more deep diving. But anyway, I'm not trying to discourage that, but
Thank you.
So you
Can
can
I-
think it through.
Can I ask another question while you're up? This is just something that keeps coming to my mind. On long stretches of road, long cul-de-sacs maybe without an intersection, have we thought about adding bulb outs along the way at certain periods just to help that traffic calming?
We've talked about some different things like that, and we are actually experimenting now with the candlestick and some striping. So we're doing some things to see if those kind of things that pinch the lanes down, and we're going back and looking at speeds to see what's happening. So we are doing some experimental stuff that once we get some real data, we may be bringing it back into into actual concrete. So
Could we make a recommendation that they don't like, I would say I wouldn't want to change it until they talk to them and get something that can both serve safety and the parking needs. I don't want safety to get left behind, and I would say no to this if that wasn't something that they did consult with Public Works to get that worked out and actually come back with specifications when they do this. Since they're doing it, since it's part of the design standards. That's what I'm saying. I think we should.
Which is essentially the recommendation that TMAC made. Like,
Right.
get some data, make sure you consider safety in with your guidelines, and
And I think part of,
and trust the experts.
and I think part of the general recommendation is we would all like to see more traffic calming. Let's slow some people down. Let's get them off their cell phones. Let's have police to pull them over. Like I think all of these things are intermingled. And I think the recommendation that I keep hearing from all of us is more study, yes. And the recommendation is let's slow some people down, especially in the residential neighborhoods, however we choose to do that.
I think that's true. I've often commented that in the ideal world, I think the design speed would always match the speed limit of a road, right? It always kills me when you have this big wide road with a low speed limit because nobody goes it anyway. Obviously nobody would want a road that's designed to be really slow with a really high speed limit. Like they should match, right? In general.
I agree with that. I also was thinking that just as a suggestion, maybe to tackle this problem on a wider scale, I don't know if this should be part of a recommendation or anything, but I do think that they should do kind of like Bill mentioned about them going and doing, like, what do you call it? Like a blitz or something like that with enforcement for speeding, distracted driving, not stopping fully at the stop sign line, things like that, the things that really endanger pedestrians. And if they could do that in some way, the city council could like earmark that money to then put into traffic safety calming things. I think that would be just like a win-win because you're helping people be accountable and training people to be better about driving, and then putting in the infrastructure that helps them intuitively do that.
Okay. Are we ready for a motion before Cinderella becomes a pumpkin?
Too late.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Y'all can hate it if you want to. I would like to make a motion that we forward a positive recommendation to the municipal council for the ordinance text amendments that were presented by the Public Works Department. And just making a note of our discussion that we had about the change from 24 to 30 foot as the smallest street width, and find a way to do that that's data-based and takes safety and traffic calming into consideration.
Parking.
Second.
Okay, it's seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Sorry, can you kind of restate that?
Yeah.
I think I lost the condition a little bit, or the.
There was no condition. It was recommending approval of all the changes, but just having them take into account our discussion and the data that is available to make sure that whatever they decide takes into account safety and traffic calming.
I guess I would personally want to vote nay on that because I would not want it to get lost in the noise. Oh, unanimous yeses when I'm not comfortable, like just tacking the condition on the end. I fear that it'll get lost in, oh, look, the planning commission said yes.
Would you prefer a straw poll so we can indicate that kind of split nature? that I
Or
think
you
we
can
have?
just vote no
Or
and,
just-
and then put a reason why at the end.
Okay, if that's the appropriate way to, yeah.
Can't
to
do
handle
it.
the
Right,
motion,
either of
then,
those
yeah.
would work.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other?
Okay.
I'll second your motion, Lisa.
I think
I'll just
Matt
read it
already
again.
did.
Yeah. Already done.
You
Okay, any
thirded
other
it.
discussion on the
I'll
motion?
third it.
Okay, let's start voting.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
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 And I'll vote aye, and so it passes 6-2.
Do you want to vote or note the two reasons for the nay?
I want them to make safety the number one priority, safety of pedestrians, not just convenience of cars.
Yeah, I agree with much of the motion you're making, but I don't feel comfortable passing a positive recommendation until that has taken place.
Great, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If Bill keeps